All right, what about now? How about this? Is this better sound? What about this, Colin Waters? Is this any
I
better?
can hear you now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think
Better than it was when I had the things? Sorry, who wants me to just start this whole thing over? Because I forgot everything about this, and it's hard to run a Zoom show while you're also doing the share my screen, and I'm a disaster. Who? Anybody?
So you can go over the mistakes you made in this.
Yeah. Here, let's just do a quick recap for everybody.
The cliff notes.
Well, all right, everybody. Nope, that's the wrong button again. Here we go. Right. Intro. You know who I am, and you know why you're here. Boom. Why are you doing this? And in this case, I'm talking about why am I putting on this show for you? Because I hate bad comedy. And because I have done a ton of bad comedy shows, and I've learned a lot, and it's really screwed me over, and I've had to rebuild trust and how to organize things. And I want you to not make the same mistakes I did, and I want to make sure you have a good comedy show. And because comedy's reputation sucks, and I want to make it not suck in the future moving forward, why are you doing this? That's why you're taking this class about running a show, and why are you running a show? Because you love comedy. Of course you do. That's why you're here. Because you know a ton of funny people who deserve stage time and attention. Awesome. You want to get them on the stage, you want to get them paid, you want to get them time, you want to get them in front of people. There we go. You found a pretty cool little spot for comedy. And you're like, hey, I could probably do a comedy show here. They're not doing one. I'm here. I see them. I know the owner. I'm going to do this. We had a conversation. Let's do it. And then you also got told when you were starting out that this is the way to get stage time is to run a comedy show. And then also you get that sweet, sweet moolah, baby. Oh, yeah. And then, hey, wait a minute. You got told this is how you get stage time when you're just starting out? Sweet, sweet moolah? One of those is a fucking lie. If you're new and want stage time, start an open mic. They're better for you. You learn how to write, you learn how to perform, you learn how to adapt. There's no pressure. You won't turn people off from comedy. And you'll learn a lot of things, small things, about running an actual comedy show. I'll give you a piece of advice that I got running an open mic years ago. If you're at a place that's kind of a dive bar, they have a pool table and people keep playing pool. This is what I learned. Take the cue ball and hide it. Boom. That's great advice. That's free advice. All right. I was like, damn, that was so useful. All right. Sidebar, part one. How to start an open mic. Just because I said, hey, if you're new and you're trying to run shows, just start a mic. Find a failing business. Find out what their weakest day is of their 7 bad days. Pitch it as a thing like, hey, I can bring in, a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people here. Most of them will probably order something from you. And you'll make a little bit more money than you would have on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or, God forbid, a Friday. Don't do a Friday mic. Please don't do it. Oh, my God, it's a disaster. All right. And then make sure they have a speaker and mic. You need those for the open mic. It's kind of the things you need. If they don't have one, you want to buy your own, go for it. They're expensive. All right. The moment you've been waiting for if you weren't already here for this part. All right. Finding. All kinds of things. All right. Tons of stuff. So many things that you can do comedy at. Just take it, soak it in. I really feel like I got kind of stuck in a loop here. All right. Where to start? You got to ask yourself, why are you going to use this venue? Why are you going to use this venue, and why this specific venue? And so we went through some pictures of positives and negatives about these things. Sorry, I didn't record it. Let's just do quick recap. This picture, shotgun room. So it's just everybody's lined straight up, facing the venue. Pretty good lighting. It's got a stage. It's been running for 35 years at this point, with different people running the show. And it's a back room that you don't know about in the picture, but people have seen it. There's a back room where people can go if they don't want to see your comedy show. Pretty great. We started off strong. Here we have this show. It's got random seating of all kinds. It's a daytime show with the windows not covered. It's a bright room. There's nothing tiny speaker, tiny tinny speaker. But the positive is this is in a small town where there is no competition for entertainment. I ended up making more money than I've made running a comedy show ever. It helped that I had Kyrie Shabazz. That is a cheat code. Get Kyrie Shabazz. All right, and then this is photo 1 of a venue. As you can see, there's a display right behind the no stage. Seating's it's clearly a restaurant. You've got this beam blocking view for this table, this table, this table. Let's go to the second shot. Here we go, back tables. These ones don't really see. As you can see, there's nowhere really to put a lighting rig that makes sense either. Did they have TVs on? They did, but it was just having a background like fish swimming in the background. So not the worst it could have been. All right, I think this is about where we were. Let me check see if anybody else is having issues. One moment. All right. Wait, are you guys not seeing the screen I'm seeing, you guys? Are you guys going?
I was just about to say, you're not sharing your screen.
I'm not sharing my screen. Fuck. There we go. Sorry about that. See, this is why I check these things. All right. Back out of that. See? All right. What am I missing here? I hate this. All right. So I wasn't turning my screen the entire time? Nobody was telling me anything. All right, we're back in the chat.
You gotta do this again?
We gotta do it all again. All right. So just so you know, I will be putting this I'll send you guys all a link to the presentation so you can look back at it later. Oh my God. All right. All right. And I'm recording because I'm a monster. All right. Back to Zoom. Oh my God. I just want to see the chat. Is there a way to do it? Oh, all right. Screw it. Back to your show, you guys. All right. So, all right. Here we go. No, we're not doing that. I gotta do that to do that. All right. Back to here. All right. Now, just shout it out if you guys are not seeing my screen. I'm sorry so much. All right. Here we go. This is where we kind of everything. All right. Here I was thinking it was fine. I'm a professional. All right. So this is another room we're looking at. What are we seeing here? That's positive or negative. We can see it's a bar. We can see that the seating is facing somebody. There's no real stage, but there is a stage area kind of offset from everything. So you are dealing with a bar, which means you might be dealing with people who don't want to see comedy, don't know there's comedy happening. Here's another shot of the space from behind the bar. So anything we're seeing positive, negative here.
Was that speaker on a stool?
The speaker's not, wait, it might have been on a stool then, but I did get it on a stand. Giving the game away. Yeah, the speaker is on a stool in this case. I don't know why that would be. I have a stand. I think we tried a stand, it didn't work. Anyway, so in this picture, it is on a stand. We've put it on a stand. So before the show, it was on a stool, put it on a stand to get it up there. All right, anything we're seeing positive, negative here?
I don't like that people are entering right next to the stage.
Right here. This stage entrance, yeah. Not ideal, not perfect, but there is a divide as well.
And when you walk people, that's demoralizing too, that you see them walk right past.
Yeah. So it's designed, there's door here, and there's also a door back here somewhere. Anything else we're seeing positive or negative here? Lighting, positive or negative?
Negative, is there a spotlight in that corner?
There's a spotlight in that corner. All right. So this is kind of, you're stuck with these string lightings that kind of throw off the actual stage lighting, but it's actually not as bad as it looks from where we're at. All right. And then this one, positives or negatives of this shot, which is pre-show.
Where's the actual stage?
Where's the actual stage? All right, so this is at the back of the room. It is lifted. So there is an actual stage here. We've got daylight. Not great. Big-ass windows. No cover. Not great. Anything else we're seeing?
Little kid in the front row.
Little kid in the front row. Nice. All right, so we're seeing...
You'll scare him or blow his eardrums out. One of the two.
What's that?
You'll scare him or blow his eardrums out. One of the two.
All right, so we're going to scare this child or blow their eardrums out. We're also worried that this family might leave. Are we really that worried? Or are we not that worried that this family might leave? To me, I'd never
leave a hole in the front.
What's that?
I said, oh, sorry. I said when they leave, it'll leave a hole in the front.
Yeah, it will leave a hole. Now, this is pre-show. Plenty of time to fill in on this one. But yeah, to me, children in bars and breweries are a problem, but they're only a problem if you make them a problem. I usually, if I spot a family with a child, let them know comedy is coming, let them know it's not a family show, and these people will make their decision to stay or leave. And you'd be surprised how many will stay, honestly, and they'll keep their kid in check. Obviously, you've got to make sure they're keeping the kid in check. If it's being a monster, you got to get them out of there. This venue also, you can't tell, but through this door there is a back area where people can hang out. So they don't have to leave the venue. They can actually just go outside. All right, anything else we're seeing? Positive or negative? Nothing, great. Moving on. Next show. All right, positives, negatives of this one. It's small. Now, to you, is that a positive or a negative? So it is small. You've got, again, your shotgun-style seating, where people are just straight in, facing all the same direction pretty much. I think small is good, because it can make a small audience feel big, and a big audience feel gigantic. Like, I think it really helps to make people feel more comfortable. I often tell people that, laughter is a contagious thing. So the closer you can get to people, the more laughter you're going to get, because you're going to tell a weird joke that people aren't going to feel comfortable laughing at. But if they hear somebody else laughing about it nearby, they're like, oh, that person's laughing. Now I can feel more comfortable laughing. So, I mean, in the post-COVID world, not really ideal. But back in the day, this was great. Yes?
Are venue owners normally open to rearranging the seating, rearranging their tables so that all the seats are facing toward and more of a shotgun place, or is every place just different?
Yeah, obviously with any venue you can't speak in absolutes. Some are more interested in moving their stuff around, some are not. I find most places, unless it's bolted down, they're down to move it. You're the expert. You do comedy all the time. They want to do comedy. They want it to be successful. And spacing is important. You can't have a 30-foot gap between the stage and the first seat. There's no connection between the comic and the audience in that case. If their first seat is 30 feet back, you need to be like, hey, can we get some seats up front? That's like an important question to ask. And we'll get to some things. You don't have to go to a venue and talk about doing a show, then agree to do a show. You can be like, I don't think this is tenable, we shouldn't do this. You're within your right to do that, and they're within their right to tell you no, even if they approached you. But yeah, if there's somebody who's not going to move seats around, make sure that where they're at is good where it is. Like, good enough is usually good enough. Anything else on this one?
It does look like they have some posts in the way.
Yeah, these are pretty narrow posts, which is nice, and they're also more along the side, so everybody's kind of getting their line of sight, not really obstructed. This one actually, because the other one is a big, what was it, 2 or 3 bricks wide? That's massive. That's like a 1.5 foot column versus this. So you can work your way around it just by moving your chair a little bit. Also, this is an intimate setting, and it's kind of a cool vibe. You're surrounded by wine barrels. That's fun. It's like a cool, you can tell your friends about it thing. All right, this one, positives or negatives. This is just during regular operating hours. I don't have one from the show there. Positives or negatives of this layout.
I know this place. There's no seats right in front of the stage. It's the audience.
And there's a stage, just so you guys can see it. There is a stage.
Yeah, but the seats are like going,
Yeah, there's these booth-style seats.
Yeah, and they go that way.
They go this way.
Yeah.
Along here, I think there's some seats that face out towards the window. You've got bar seating, and more booths.
What's awesome about this place is that they have those satellite speakers all around, so everybody can hear.
All right, so we got these speakers everywhere, so sound is not an issue. So that's pretty cool. Stage lifted just enough. Pretty cool. Anything else positive or negative here?
There's nowhere to assemble a crowd.
Is the bar action happening during the show?
So this is not during the show. This is just like a picture they took as they were getting ready to open. Honestly,
Is this when it was Serpentine, or is this now that it's the?
This is when it was Serpentine.
It's
Yes,
an
Serpentine Fox.
now.
Yeah, it just opened. They still have the Serpentine Fox painted. They're like, really? I thought they went out of business. All right. So to me, I
Booth
think
tables are really hard.
An elephant in the room. What's that?
The TVs.
Booth tables are really hard.
Booth tables are nearly impossible. You can't turn them around.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Bunch of TVs. Look at all these damn TVs. There's 90 TVs. You think they're going to convince them to turn every one of those off? They're going to keep one on. This one's going to be golf all the time, for sure. All right. Anything else we're having a problem with here?
The bar's right in the middle of the room.
Thank you. The bar is right in the middle of the room. If you're back here, how the hell are you seeing this stage? You can't. You're blocked by this. You're blocked by TVs. There's literally, unless you're sitting here, and in this booth right here, specifically right here, not here, not here, right here, you're not going to enjoy this show. And again, good comedy will overcome a lot of that stuff. The show actually ran for a little while because the comedy was good. Also, Chad Opitz knocked over somebody playing, you stack the things, stacking them up. Anyway, Jenga. Yeah, they had a giant Jenga during the comedy show, and Chad Opitz knocked it over, and we filmed it. It was great. All right, we did a sidebar earlier. Sidebar part 2. If the venue has a sidebar behind a dividing wall, sell yourself to this venue. You need to book this room. I cannot tell you enough how much you need to book a room that has a back room that you can either hang your show in or that patrons can go to if they don't want to be a part of the show. They put it in here 3 times. That's how sure I am that if you can find a divided room, you're going to have a hell of a show. You get the best of everything. It seems like a secret if you're in the back room. That's pretty cool. You get a good word of mouth on that. And the patrons who don't want to see comedy have something else to do, and the venue still makes money either way. Hey, speaking of making money either way, now that you know what this is blocked about, now that we've done that, you know 100% what works and does not work in a comedy venue when you're looking for one. So you can do a paid stand-up show. And I cannot emphasize enough how much the deal breakers we've talked about cannot go unbroken, and the must-haves guarantee success. So the things I've said, hey, this is great for a show, guarantees a successful show. The things I said, hey, this is bad, means you just say no to that venue straight up 100% of the time. And I cannot stress enough how much what I just said is 100% true. So let's talk to a venue. Just so we know, that was all sarcasm. You actually can work around weak points, and strong points do not a good show make. They're just very helpful. So you got to pick your spot. You got to know how to make contact with a venue, who to contact at the venue, and how to address a venue that if they approach you about doing a show. Just because this place has done live music before does not mean it's great for stand-up comedy. Just a word of advice, because music can be enjoyed actively or passively. You can be up there dancing and singing along and clapping, or you can just sit at your table and have a good time. Or you can completely drown it off, have a conversation with your friends, and it doesn't affect the musician in any way, depending on what they're booked for. Obviously, if it's a concert, obviously you're not going to do that. But comedy requires that people are actively paying attention. Music does not require that. So just because they run music doesn't mean they're going to be good at comedy. You can just be sitting at a table looking nowhere near that musician and still enjoy the music or ignore the music. You can't do that with comedy. Comedy can't be ignored. That is the downside of comedy. All right.
Musicians aren't going to be mad.
Yeah.
They're going to call you out.
Yeah. Musicians won't get mad too much about you talking. They're used to it. They know where they're at.
Why aren't you moshing?
Yeah. They're like, I'm playing my acoustic guitar, but it's a version of Nirvana, so you should be, in there. So that's not really anything. Let's see here. Another thing, there are no shortcuts to success in running a comedy show, except this one. Leverage your existing relationships. Let me get this out of the way so I don't have to see that. Leverage your existing relationships. If you have a friend who owns or manages a bar or something like that, talk to them about comedy. You've been doing comedy, you know comedians. You can probably talk them into doing a show for a little bit less than they'd ask a professional booker to do a show because they want to make sure you have a good show. Obviously, be more than fair. Don't be a fucking monster. Like, don't be like, hey, we're friends, do it for $20. That's rude. Pay your comics also. If you're doing a show, pay your comics. And if you have weaknesses and you know somebody that can fit in those weaknesses, get them. Like, I can't do anything in the graphic design stuff. So if you know someone with design skills, hire that person to make your flyer. I'm bad at promo, so if I was having some problems getting a show off the ground, I'd probably pay somebody who's good at it to do it for me. Like, you have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are if you're going to be doing this. You have to be honest with yourself about those strengths and weaknesses. What's that? Repeat the last. Oh, so when you're running promotions, a lot of people think, it's handing out handbills, it's going on the streets, it's doing digital marketing with Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. If you don't know what you're doing, you're wasting your time. right? So if you don't know what you're doing, you can learn. You can certainly spend the money and learn and time to learn. Or if you know somebody who does know that you're willing to pay them their rate, do that instead. It's a lot less of a headache. Tell them what you want, and they'll get it done for you.
Question.
Yes.
When you're doing the show as a promoter or as putting on your own show, do you count as part of the expenses the money you're spending on promotion, making cost of flyers and maybe paying a designer or whatever, or do you just look at the night the show happens and you're paying the comedians out of the gate?
Yeah, so it's how are we counting our money? Me, I factor in everything. How much am I spending to do this show versus how much I'm taking in? How much am I paying my comics? How much am I taking home? Am I factoring in tipping your bar staff? If you're running a show at a venue, tip them heavy. They'll talk about your show because they like you as a person. Because you pay. Comics like you because you pay. The venue likes you because you brought them money. Okay, so as far as that goes, I factor all that stuff in. Like, did I make money at this show or did I lose money at this show? If you're paying comics, you know how much. Depending on how you negotiate, you should know how much money you're bringing in at the end of the show. You shouldn't be able to get in a hole just from paying your comics. So yeah, hold on. I'm just gonna keep checking things. All right. I will say anybody who's like in this, watching this at home, if you want to just message me on Facebook, also I can see that too. Might be an easier way to tell me that there's problems. But yeah, just if you're not good at something, there's nothing wrong with farming it out. Because otherwise you're just wasting time and money. If you're going to spend Facebook ads like $15 and you see 200 eyeballs but only 3 reactions, what'd you pay for? You didn't get anything out of that. But somebody else you can give them $40 and they'll get you thousands of views and dozens of reactions, comments, and shares. So that's more useful spending of your money. All right, back to where to start, which we already said, but we're still starting. You need to know, what kind of show are you even trying to throw? You can't just be like, I'd like to do comedy, please. You need to have a plan of action. You need to know what you can and cannot do. So what kind of shows are we able to throw here? You got your local showcase. That's your cluster fucking newbies, right? You got everybody doing 5 to 10, maybe a person closing it out with 15. You got your regional show where you're getting like a headliner who's doing maybe 20, maybe 30, right? And then of course you've got your regional and national headliner shows. Those are your classic, host feature headline shows. You need to know what you can do. Like, do you have the connections where you can do this show continuously? Can you put on a show of that quality with different comics? You're not repeating comics. You're not bringing in the same type of comedy over and over again. The thing that you want to focus on when you're pitching a show is sustainability. That's really what this class is about. It's about sustaining a show. If you do not have the network to put together a show for 6 months where you don't repeat somebody, you should not be running a show. If you don't know that these guys will come in here and kill this show for 6 months, I don't know what you think you're doing. Now, local showcase, the explanation of what killing the crowd is different than a headliner show, obviously. But you need to know that you can do that before you start talking. If you can't give them that, you need to hand that venue off to somebody else. You need to or go out and network, watch comics, make connections. All right, more where to start. Oh, cool. We got it all done. They agreed to a kind of show. So now we need to figure out what we're doing. We're doing this show weekly. We're doing this show twice a month. We're doing this monthly. We're doing this seasonally. You doing this daily? You want to do a daily comedy show? All right, let's do a daily. No, don't ever do it. Why would you even want that headache? That sounds truly terrible. So this one, depending on the venue, I find monthly is the best. I mean, if you're doing it at a non-comedy venue, which is what this class is also about, don't go to Sacred Comedy Spot with this piece of information. It's not useful. They're a comedy venue. They know what they're doing. You're looking at doing a show here at Luna's. You're looking at doing a show at your favorite bar. These are what this needs to look at. You can do twice a month, but there's a possibility that those audience members will get burned out and the money will stop coming. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is, did the venue make more money tonight than they would have done it doing nothing at all? If you're not beating that out, why are they doing business with you? And oftentimes monthly is the best thing. Twice a month, are you doing what? Every second and fourth Thursday? What happens to the fifth Thursday? People are coming back every other month? Are you coming every other one? Who remembers when was there a show last week? Or was there a show? Monthly, you can be like, hey, third Wednesday. Boom, done. It's in their heads. Third Wednesday, third Wednesday, third Wednesday. You start your show. You remind them it's the third Wednesday of the month. Thanks for coming out. Come back at the end of the show. Come back next third Wednesday. Things like that. It's really easy to just keep your momentum going if you do that. But again, you can do the other ones. You can do weekly. Weekly's great. Also, if you have enough of an audience where they come specifically for your show, and you can book comics for that and not repeat your people. All right. Now let's get down to brass, whatever way you spell tax. I didn't do the research. One of those is right. Maybe they're both right. I feel like it's tax, not taxation. I feel like that's probably right. So you need to know what needs to be disclosed about the realities of putting on a stand-up comedy show at these venues. And you need to disclose everything. Everything. Positive or negative, if it's possible it's going to happen at this show, you need to inform the venue. Negatives of stand-up comedy? Those exist? Boy, howdy do they. There are so many of them. Most likely, your venue that you're talking to has never done comedy before. They have no experience. They've seen it at Punchline or something. Like, we want that experience. And you're like, oh boy, you ready for that? All right. So you need to know, just know this going in. You know more than they do. When you walk into that room and you're talking to an owner or a manager, you know more about comedy than they do. And you need to convince them you know more. They're going to have questions. They're going to have assumptions. You need to be able to answer every single one of those questions and verify or deny the assumptions they're making. And you need to make it convincing, compelling, truthful. And they need to be able to trust you in that moment, coming into the first show, and continuing forward. They need to know that you have authority here and that they can trust you when you're recommending changes or other ideas, and when you're telling them no to a business they own. All right. If they want to try comedy and they suggest running an open mic, it is your duty to inform them of everything that an open mic entails. You're going to get people who've never done comedy. You're going to get racists. You're going to get homophobes. You're going to get the worst of the worst. And you're also going to get some pretty cool people walking through that door. You're going to get alcoholics. You're going to get people who don't drink at all. You're going to get people who ate beforehand. Like, it may not make them any money. And it will likely, and the key here is, it will likely turn away a lot of regulars because you can't control quality. So you need to make them aware that, like, this can work, but you need to be prepared for audience, or like, your constituents to come in and tell you they don't like this. It's very likely to happen that people that come to this bar regularly will say, hey, I don't like the open mic. Can we get rid of it? So you need to make them aware that that's a risk that they are taking. If you don't tell them the risks, they're going to be mad at you when they happen. You need to be upfront about it. Yeah, so here it is. You might piss off the regulars, you just want a place to hang out after work. You can drive away families, which we talked about briefly. You can drive away families. Families pay money. I'm sorry, if you're a parent, you need a meal for everybody and 2 or 3 drinks for each parent because you've got to deal with children. So that's a lot of money. That's like $80. Easy. That's walking out that door because you're doing a comedy show people don't expect. And comedy is, by its very nature, divisive. So you might have somebody who says something that offends somebody that doesn't offend everybody, but it offends one person who is a big spender there. So that's a problem. Even good comedians on shows done poorly fail and lose money. So, even having even booking a great show could still lose money if you run the show poorly. If it's bad sound, bad lighting, bad stage setup, like all that stuff, you might have the best comedians on earth, but if it's not a fun experience, you're going to lose money. All right, and of course, the subset here is that comedy's no sure thing. Make sure people know that. Sometimes the show can be so funny. This is true. You can have a show so funny, the bar still loses money because nobody wants to stand up and go order something. So even a good show might get canceled because it's not usually like, hey, can you kind of press on people that it's okay to get up and get drinks? Maybe you can talk to your venue like, hey, do you have like somebody you can send out to take orders? That might be the easier thing to do if you have the staffing for it. So there's fixes. They're not going to be like, we didn't make money one time. This is a great show. Get the fuck out of here. That's not going to happen. They're going to tell you the issue exists. And it's your job to come up with solutions. And the easy ones are, remind your crowd that it's okay to go get a drink. Even if they're having a good time, just don't be loud and rude about it. Or have the staff go out there and take orders. And then, of course, I learned this one with Cutthroat Comedy, my longest running show. The first place I went, the thing that I learned is that area, nobody in the area, no matter how far you went, you could go a mile out, Nobody I talked to had any interest in ever seeing a live comedy show. The venue approached me. I was like, yeah, I've got this idea for a show. I think it'd be fun. And it turns out that they had not asked any of their regulars, anybody in their area, hey, would you want to see comedy? And I didn't ask them that. It was one of my first shows, And turns out I started doing more canvassing as we were failing and not really making money. I was like, hey, would you want to see it? And they're like, no, we live here for the specific reason that we go to work, we come home, we go to sleep, and that's what this community is. And so you need to know that. Fun fact, that's one of the things you paid for, is this piece of information, that there's some places you straight up can't do comedy. All right. And then I put in here at the end, you need to have attention to detail. If you're not a detail-oriented person, you're not going to be a good showrunner. The devil's in the details, and money is the root of all evil. So if you want to make money, you got to know the specifics of the product you're selling. There, right? Tied it all together. I'm just going to check for any messages about terrible sound and anything in the chat. Nothing in the chat. We're doing great. All right. And this one's kind of a thing you need to be aware of just as a comedian and a performer and a showrunner. Be aware of other competing shows in your area. If you've got a show that's doing the same thing you're doing 3 blocks away, why are you doing a show? And venues should know what's going on. They should know more than you do. Hey, we've got a guy, it's like 2 blocks away that's doing a similar thing. Can we do a different day? Be open to that. So in this note, you're hurting both of you, and you likely won't be friends with that person if you knew him beforehand. So that's always fun. All right, so let's check some survey responses now that we're this deep in here. I put out a survey for people like, hey, what are you looking for in this show, in this class, and things like that. Let's just check some typical responses we got. Like this question: what is one topic you wish to have addressed during this class that you know absolutely nothing about? Got some answers. How to make money. A fair rate to ask a venue. How to talk money and not get played when setting up a show. I'd really like to hear how you approach smaller venues to discuss a show and how you broach the subject of money with them. How to make money. Best way to approach and negotiate rates with venues. So it's time to get paid, everybody. You guys ready for this? This is what we all came out here for. How do we make money running a show? Well, first of all, we got to answer some questions. What kind of show you doing? We answered that earlier, but we need to know what kind of show, because that's going to affect how much you can make or ask to make doing it. What kind of talent are you bringing? We discussed that earlier, but you need to know what kind of show you've got, what level of talent you're bringing. Let's see. What built-in audience there is from the venue. How are they doing on that night when you're not there? And, are you looking at, are people going to show up because of the comedy? Are they going to stay away because of the comedy? Is it a positive or negative gain for them on what their mutual night is? And then, what about you? What are you bringing to the conversation? What kind of money are you looking to make doing this comedy show? So, let me go back on that, actually, just because I haven't really expanded on it, and I don't think I did in this. Let's find out if I actually expand on it later. All right. So, obviously the answer is it depends on what you're doing. So, you've got to know what the venue makes. You've got to know what they can afford without being a dick about it. You've got to have conversations, be open, let them know what you can offer them. Depending on the venue, how it's laid out, what it looks like, what I think their income is, I'll offer them that national headliner show. And a lot of people will balk at it because you're asking them for hundreds of dollars, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. And they're like, that's hanging out there. That goes poorly. That might ruin their business. It's tough times. Everybody's kind of strapped. And even in the best of times, those places, their margins are tiny. So you've got to be able to know that might not be a thing that they can do. You've got to kind of figure out a place where you're both not jubilant. Okay, like you can't be sad about it. But if you're super happy, the other person's probably not happy at all. So you've got to find that middle ground that works for both of you. And if it doesn't come together, say no. They'll tell you no. You should have no problem telling them no. All right. So more questions. Oh, I guess maybe I did do this. Look, I can't be recalling all the. There's like 80 slides in here. All right. So you got to also factor in: is it a ticketed thing? Is there a cover? Is it a free show? So are you selling tickets in advance? Are you selling them online? Are you selling them at the door? Are you doing a cover? Is this show free? That will also affect how much money you can ask for. Because if you do a ticketed show, obviously you're offsetting the cost of the venue because they're going to make that through the tickets, which is something they don't usually charge. As far as a cover, maybe this venue you go to already charges a cover and you get a cut of it because of the comedy. So then you can kind of figure out what's the numbers. Like if I'm charging $25 a head, this place seats 100 people, that's $2,500 that you have to play with. Are you going to get $2,500 as a guarantee from that venue? You are not. They're going to be like, we'll give you 50%, in case it doesn't sell. So you're looking at $1,250 maybe. Maybe they're like, we'll give you 25%. Are you okay with that? To me, I think you should be getting 50% of your door. That's just, if you're having a ticket where they don't usually have a ticket, or they're having a cover where they don't have a cover, if you're not getting at least 50%, keep fighting and walk away. Now, obviously, when you do a ticketed thing, there comes an expectation that you're bringing the crowd. So you need to know, if you're doing a covered thing, can you fill that room? Can you get people in that would not otherwise be at that venue? And for me, fun fact about me, the answer is no. I don't bring crowds. So the thing that I do is I make sure that the first show is undeniably funny. You go as big as you can. If you're doing a ticketed show, go as big as you can. Call in all your favors. Book killers. And then whoever shows up to that show and pays that money is going to talk about that show. Because it was a great show. And now your work for the next show is lessened. That person had a good time, they're probably coming back. They're probably bringing friends, they're telling their friends. They're sharing the posts. So you're doing a lot of promo that way if you make the first show killer. You might break even, but in the future, you're going to start seeing more people coming in. And that's how I bring crowds. It's putting on a killer first show, maintaining that, maybe even exceeding it for the second show. So that way that word of mouth goes. So if you're going to do anything that involves people paying money to be that place, that's on you. You need to make sure that you are willing to eat the difference. If you make promises to pay $2,500 worth of money out to the people that you're getting there to make sure your show's killer, and you only make $1,500, you better have $1,000 lying around to pay that difference. That's the risk you want to take. I recommend not taking that risk, obviously. That's a lot of money. But if you're like, I can give you $500, but you know that you're like probably only going to make $4, you got to know you have that $100 lying around, and trust that you're going to make that back over time. That was fun, right? That was a fun part of this. Oh God, it's probably the worst part of all of it. All right.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that I should be taking all the money from the door and then turning it around and paying the performers?
Well, so yours is a covered show. It's not a ticketed show. Cover's a little bit different. You can get 100% of the door at a lot of places. I think that's, for places where people are coming anyway, you can ask more for a cover than you can from tickets, I think. Because like a lot of places, a lot of performers, a lot of bands will demand 100% of cover over the door. So that one is different than tickets. So,
But who's running the tickets? Is it the venue or the comedians?
it should.
Like, you're the booker.
Yeah.
Are you handling the tickets
So-
themselves or the venues?
With ticketing, you will want to have a ticketing agency, I think. If you're doing hand-sold tickets, it's hard to track the money on that. If you're going to do tickets that you buy at the venue, they should be sold by the venue.
I'm talking online tickets.
Yeah, so as far as that goes, whoever feels more comfortable creating that setup and knows they can market it better, oftentimes I think it's the venue, honestly, which is why they get their cut. They're doing the work.
So if I sell tickets online here, I make more money because I'm keeping part of it? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's everything's a negotiation, Art. But yeah, you have negotiating
Good
power.
ideas here, so
Yeah.
be careful.
Oh boy, this is backfiring. All right, but
If you don't get 50%, you should walk away.
if on a ticketed show, if you're not getting 50%, I don't know why you're staying around. That's free money for the venue because they're not charging tickets to just come hang out. Come out to this bar. It's $25. I mean, they might charge a cover, but they're not charging. Buy your tickets, 2 weeks in advance, or else you can't come in. That's not so. Yeah, I think asking that is fine. They get back the cost of promotion. They get back, the risk that they're taking that doesn't sell out. For cover, like Art and I just talked about, that's negotiable. 50% is pretty standard. 75%, 100%. Some people have it in their rider, 100% of the door. You can argue with liquor costs, how much you're selling food and beverage. You can ask about that. That's going to be a lot of transparency. A lot of businesses aren't going to give you that. And don't expect it. You can ask. I don't. I can guess the numbers, but I'm usually pretty close. You look around who's drinking what. You can kind of guess and be like, hey, I see that you probably made this much money tonight. Is there any way we can bump up what I'm getting paid? Is a thing that you're allowed to ask. Now, are you going to burn a bridge? Maybe. Do you want to do that? Is it worth, hey, I see you're making $3,000 tonight. Is there any way you can get me up to $800? Never hurts to ask, but you got to remember what they're, also how much it costs for them to bring that food and beverage in. They're not getting free stuff. So you kind of got to know everything about that as well. All right.
So there's will be a question and answer period at the end.
Oh, of course there will.
Okay.
Yes, plenty of questions and answers. More questions we got to answer. How often is the show? We already went over that. What's your network? We kind of went over that. Do you have the comics to fill this roster and pay? You need to pay. If you're doing a ticketed price, for instance, if you're doing a ticketed show, I say put on a show that's worth the amount you're charging. If you're charging $25, it's better not be a bunch of locals who have no credits. There's plenty of, the nice part about Sacramento is that you've got a ton of amazing comedians that are worth $25. But if we're putting on a show with people in this room right now for $25, no one's coming back to that show. Sorry. Like, straight up, I wouldn't pay that. And you need to make sure that you're... and if I go to the chat, I mean, there's very few people in the chat that do the same thing, but I don't want to just single out this room right now. Sorry, that was a mean-spirited thing I just said. But you need to know that you're putting on a show that's worth what people are paying as well. All right. And so with the network, you truly run a show for months or years without getting repetitive, without bringing the same comic back every 5 months, 3 months, 6 months. My goal, generally speaking, is I don't talk to the same comic for the same show for 3 years.
Whoa.
And that's doing monthly shows. Like, there's one show I do, it's seasonal, and the person who has the best feature set that people will like start talking about, like the guy that was there before the headliner was great. Whoever gets the most, like, we get the most feedback on that person, they come back the next year and headline. That's like how you come back. But other than that, I don't want to see the same people, and neither does your audience. And the nice part is, the more you do that, the less you repeat people, the more like, this is a really great show, you never know what you're going to get, but you're always going to get something great. And if that's what you can get people to talk about, people are going to keep coming back. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So when it comes to building a network, do you interact with comics who aren't in your scene? You need to do it. You need to know who's working in the Bay. You need to work the South Bay, LA comics, Portland comics, Seattle comics, Denver comics. And at this point, I should point out that I probably have a few advantages in being able to do what I've been able to do over the years. I'll also do the comics, when they do their show, talk about how good that show was. Whether they make a post on Facebook or just tell you how much fun they had. Those are important things. If you're not getting that feedback in some way, something's going wrong and you need to fix it. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of coming clean here. I've had a few advantages as not just a straight white male comic, but as just my life experience in general. In finding venues, I have a beer podcast where I travel to breweries. I have a reputation of being friendly and professional and putting on good shows at one brewery. Another brewery reaches out to me. That's been very helpful that I'm doing word of mouth to get these rooms. Then I started doing bar shows, which I didn't really care to, but now I'm kind of liking the bar show thing. And as far as my network, I did have a chance to host the first show ever at the Sacramento Comedy Spots comedy competition that was a worldwide competition. I was the first host. The second host canceled, so I hosted 2 shows where I was meeting comics from New York, LA, Chicago, all that stuff. It's like 24 comics, right? Had a killer set, brought them out to like before the show, like, hey, meet me up for drinks and dinner. We can kind of talk about what you can do around the town, make connections, hustle, network. So that was kind of an unfair advantage for me as well, is that I had those connections built into doing that kind of work. So that's cheating a little bit. As a podcaster, I get to travel sometimes. I go to new towns. Oh, is there a comedy thing going on? Network. So you can do it too. It's just I just happen to meet pretty cool people pretty early on. So that's a bummer for you guys. But you can always build those yourself. Always be networking. If you're doing a show, talk to people, introduce yourself. If you've got a show and you want to book somebody, talk to them right then. Get them booked if you can. All right, so running the small stuff. So you've booked a room. You've talked to a venue. They're like, yeah, we're going to do comedy. You got to figure out some stuff. Like, who's providing the sound? Who's providing the lights? Do they have the stuff? Or are you expected to bring it? If you're expected to bring it, do you have those things or access to those things? Renting them, you can do. It's not cheap. Pretty expensive. Who's making the flyers? Is that you? Is it the venue? Are you doing multiple flyers, different kinds of flyers? You need to figure that stuff out. The promotional involvement, who's doing what? Is the venue just posting it on their Facebook right before the show happens? What is the expectation? For me, I like physical flyers hanging up in the room. Put it in the bathroom, right over the urinal, right behind the bathroom, like behind the, the non-urinal. What's it called? You piss in it, you poop in it. Toilet. There we go. Got it. Right on the door, right over the hand washing machine. Why can't I know words? All right. So those are things I like. If somebody has like little placards on the tables, why aren't you in that placard? You only need one side at a time. Specials on one side, comedy show on the other side. What's the big deal? If they have that stuff and they're not doing it for you, they're not involved in your show. They don't want to put on this show. They expect everything from you. And comedy is symbiotic. If they are leeching off of you or you're leeching off of them, it's going to be a bad show. You need to all be involved in it and do what you do best. I always tell people, hey, I can put together a great show. I can make sure that things go well, fix problems as they happen. But at the end of the day, people are coming to this place because they like this place. And by the way, there's comedy. It's a reward for your regulars in a lot of my places. Like, hey, thanks for supporting us. Here's this cool thing we do on the side. And if you can kind of picture it that way, that's a little bit easier. Also, when you're looking around the venue, you're looking for certain things. We had the pictures. One of the things that I often forget to ask, hey, man, is this kind of an all or nothing thing with the lights? Because, like, the bar needs to be able to see what they're doing. So if they need light for the bar, and that means that you have to have light in your room, oh, man, that's going to be a rough show. Who here has done a daytime show? Yeah, you've done it. Or the show where the lights are on. It's weird. People don't laugh when the lights are on because we can see you. So lighting is very important as far as that goes. Let's just go check some things. All right, we're all doing great. Cool. Ah, damn it, every time. All right, and then of course, secondary room, always great. And of course, the question is, can they, put the sound where it needs to be? Like, will that secondary room hear this comedy because you don't have a different way to turn that sound off? Because what's the point of the second room if they can still hear you? Because now they're getting a free show if they were going there because they couldn't afford the cover. Or they're hearing comedy. They specifically told you they don't want to hear or see. So make sure that they have controls for that. All right, and now this one, so you guys are taking some notes, so I'll wait for a second. This is the best advice I have ever received about anything, anywhere. Here we go. Best advice I've ever received. All right, this is all right, here we go. If it's not an emphatic yes, it's a no. If you're not excited about it and they're not excited about it, call it a day. If there's somebody who's got reservations and they make them aware and they're always bringing up what if, and it seems like they're not really on board, not really there to help you, if they stop responding to your emails, texts, messages, whatever you're sending them, and they just are off the board, it's a no. You're going to have a bad show. It's going to ruin your reputation. The comics aren't going to have a good time. The audience isn't going to have a good time if you have an audience. If it's not an emphatic yes on both sides, it's a no. Yeah, so this is the wait. Hold up, what? Section, when I tell you that. So when do you say no? If a venue's not fully on board or seems like they won't hold up their end of the bargain, don't do the show. If you get a feeling like these guys aren't really in it, don't do it. Watch how ownership interacts with their staff. If they're mean to the people they're paying to be there, how are they going to treat you? You're just help to them. If they treat those guys with no respect, they're not going to respect you. So don't do that show. And if you're asked to do more than you can provide, try to contact someone you think that can help, or hand the room off, or offer to assist that person so you still get your finder's fee or whatever you want to call it. You can co-produce. So that's also a thing where you're like, hey, this room might be more than I can handle. Like, this is a really great room, but I can't do what they deserve. That's also a no for you. Okay, just so you know, if it's something that you said, oh God, this is really cool, but I don't think that I can give you what you're looking for, you need to tell them no also. All right, you did it. Book the venue. That's the class, everybody. That's not true. But this is about sustainability. Let's book some comics. Right? How do we book a lineup? You guys know how to book a lineup? Where do you even start? First thing you do, booking a lineup.
Talent.
What's that?
Talent.
Talent. You want a good lineup. Anything else? First thing you're doing, booking a lineup.
Facebook message people.
Facebook message people. All right, so let's get a little more specific. Who are we messaging? What are we doing? Kyrie Shabazz.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Let's just take a name out of it. What would you say the first thing you're doing when you're reaching out to book a show? Who's the first person reaching out?
You're going to need to know your budget.
You're going to need to know your budget. Yes, you're going to need. First of all, you need to know who's in your budget. That's a good point. Who can you afford to pay with the money you've agreed to? But how are you picking it? What's your order of operations? How many comics are you booking? Let's say you're booking a classic host feature headliner. Who are you reaching out to first?
The headliner.
We got a few headliners. We got any things you feature or host? What do you guys think?
I think I'd probably book the host first.
Think book the host first?
I think hosts are underrated.
Hosts are underrated. So we've got headliners and hosts as the possible first person to book. And those are the best guesses. Everybody who says feature doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Straight up doesn't know what they're doing. Feature is not the first person you book. But to me, sorry, I forgot. I had a joke here. Forget this thing. I remember what I did. All right, how to book a lineup. This is it. You reward your friends first. You reach out to your best friend and be like, hey, man, come to this comedy show. And then you put your newest, most inexperienced comic in front of the crowd first. Put them up real early.
Oh, yeah.
And then you know how much money you're making, so make sure to set aside 50% for your performers, 50% for you. That's a good business operation. Definitely set aside 5 minutes between each performer so you can do some more jokes between them. Definitely do that. And then true facts, the order doesn't matter. Just put them up however you want to for whatever amount of time. And of course, do your bookings by posting about openings for shows in any Facebook comedy group. Definitely just be like, hey man, need 3 comics tonight, need 3 comics in 2 weeks. If you're posting it in public, you're going to get people who have no job, nothing better to do. You're going to have a bad lineup. So I'm going to have a bunch of screenshots because as soon as I put this note down in my notepad, it started happening like 4 times a day. I'm like, y'all don't know how to book a show. So this one's a joke. Don't do any of this shit. This is all terrible. It's good to get your friends shows, but not your first show. Unless your friends are fucking killers, then book them. But everything else, this is a joke. Don't do this. If you believe the last slide, you really need this class. That's what this is. So let's check the data on first shows. What people expect would be the way to ensure your venue of choice supports a second show. So our best result here is packing the place out. Giving them a good show where people come. Well, actually, this doesn't even imply that. It just says people showed up to your show. And then you've got preparedness. And then you've got a tie between friendliness, trustworthiness, punctuality. Coming in next, a solid lineup of comedians, a killer lineup, kind of tied. We're keeping low costs in there, an interesting concept, a smorgasbord of comedy styles. So as you can see, the thing we wanted most, what people thought is going to be the show of a successor, is just getting people in the room. It's a good way to get a second show for sure. To me, it's very strange that it didn't hit 50%. A killer lineup, not even 50% of you. You had unlimited picks, and not even half of you were like, hey, make sure the show's good. So that's a problem. If that's not one of the first things you think is make sure it's a killer show that everybody enjoys, you're going to have a problem. All right. So, okay, sure. We looked at that data. I've yelled at you. Sure, being friendly, courteous, and professional helps. But competency matters. Being a good showrunner, being aware of issues as they arise, making sure that the venue is satisfied, your performers are satisfied, and your audience is satisfied. One way to do it, booking a killer lineup. It makes your job a lot easier every time. Coupled with competent show running is the easiest way to ensure a second show. All right, so booking a killer lineup like I got to earlier. Booking killer lineup, book top to bottom, headliner, feature, host. You're doing more comics, headliner, support 2, support 3. Work through your patterns and make sure when you're booking that you're booking comics that make sense together, but aren't necessarily doing the same thing. So you want to have a high energy version of a person and a low energy version, a medium version. You want to make sure that they work together but aren't monotonous. Because otherwise the audience gets bored and you're tuning out. You don't want to do that to your audience. You can book new people and friends, but you need to be realistic of what they're capable of. Like you can book, a new comic, give them 5. Don't give them 10 before they can handle it.
And do 45.
Yeah, if somebody says they can do 45, you're like, I've seen you bombed every open mic I've ever seen you at. I can do 45 too. This is how long I've been doing this. Like, it's been going on for ages. We're not even done. I can do 45. Will people enjoy 45? That's what's important. Will this audience still want more when that person's done on stage? because you need to carry it to the end. Because at the end of the day, no matter how you book a show, your headliner's the main event. If people are tuned out by then, you've done a disservice to them, and there's no point in it. All right, so the show is yours. That's a fact. This is your show, but it's not about you. You need to get all your ego out of it. Like, for me, I host every show I run. I'm hosting monthly shows for years on end to audiences that are trained. They come to the show, they know what to expect. And you know what? They've seen all my shit. I'm not going to have a good set in those rooms. I'm going to be like, welcome. Here's a new thing I'm trying. Have a good day, right? But they know it's part of the show. And then it's like, now I've got to get somebody in here who's going to crush. That's my first comic on the bill, is somebody that will crush. That'll be funny, quick-witted, a little bit mean sometimes, a little bit more of like kind of a dirtier comic, kind of get the energy up. And diversity matters. You're putting up 4 white dudes. You can do it. You do it 3 times in a row, your audience is like, I've seen this show. They're not coming back anymore. Maybe you can go 4 shows. Maybe you'll go 5 shows. Maybe you're hanging out in a racist town. You probably do that forever there. But you need to make sure that people are seeing different comics from all walks of life. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. And if you're doing the same type of comics in every show, it's not going to last. Variety is the spice of life, and your audience is excited to see what you have in store for them next. That's what's important. You need to know that your audience trusts you to bring them a good show that they have not seen before next time. All right, so now we need to talk about the 80s Schwarzenegger flick in the room. Don't book known predators. Watch for predatory behavior when you're at mics, at shows. If you see somebody who's kind of like, keep them off your radar. It never hurts to ask your acts if they're okay with working with other comics that you plan on putting on the bill. I learned that one the hard way when in my beer podcast. There's a big going on right now about sexism and racism in beer. And it turns out one of my guests had been accused of stalking women in their hotel rooms. The person I paired him with was a woman he worked with frequently. And so I was like, hey, man. And I remember her, when I was doing it, she's like, kind of like, no, I don't want to be on mic. I'm not really good on mic. Giving all these reasons not to do this podcast. And I'm like, no, you're going to talk about your beer and yourself. It's going to be fun. You should do it. She did it. And I was like, oh, maybe those things she was saying were not ways of, because she didn't want to do the podcast. She didn't want to do the podcast with him. So you need to be aware of those things and kind of check in. If you book top down, tell each person who's already on the bill and who you're thinking about booking next. So, like when I book out to when I'm booking shows, I'm getting out of towners, I book a headliner and say, who do you want to have feature for you? Or I'm thinking of these people as features. And they'll tell you yes or no, because you put power in their hands. So, also you get to pay them less because like you guys can ride together and split gas and tolls, and now you're not losing as much money doing the show, you're making more. So I like to book in bulk. All right, doing shows. We got to talk about show lengths. There's plenty of ways to do this. 69, y'all, that's my rule. 69 is pretty nice. And what I mean by 69, 60 to 90 minutes. You want to keep it short. You don't want to do a 2-hour show, 3-hour show, 4-hour show. I've seen those. Those are awful. 60 to 90 is a beautiful, beautiful show length. Anything longer is a drag. So if we're going to do a 69-minute show, you got to know how long are these sets. Classic stand-up show, 90-minute show at a comedy club. You're doing 15, 30, 45, right? Host, feature, headline, 15, 30, 45. Let's say specs, you probably don't pay enough to put that show on. Booking somebody for 45 minutes, you better be paying $300. That's just for that person, let alone anybody else. Maybe $250. Maybe $200 if they're newer to getting into it or they're close by or whatever. But chances are you're probably not getting that much money depending on what kind of show you're running, what you negotiated. So if you want 3 comics on the bill, you can do a 30, 20, 15. That's 65 minutes. It's right in a good wheelhouse. You can have a good show doing that. And you pay a little bit less. You can do that for $200. You can do that for $150 total. So, that's something you can do if you still want that host feature setup. I do a lot of shows with like 4 comics, and I do it in a 30, 20, 15, 15 setup. I also do 30, 20, 15, 15, and I do a 20, 15, 10, 10. And then post doing 5. Like, that's the way you can do it. And maybe throw in a guest set for 5 to 7 minutes because you got the time. You still got up to 90 minutes. You can have your headliner just like, hey, I'm working on some stuff. Is there any way I can do 35? You've got the time for it. Because you could really do a show for 90, but you book for 60. So you've got some free range in there. All right, so shit just got real, but less real than the last side. Last second replacements happen. You booked your show, you're excited, you promoted the fuck out of this show, and a comic says, hey man, can't make it. What are you going to do?
Cancel the show.
What's that?
Cancel the show.
Cancel the show.
Call Ellis Rodriguez.
Call Ellis Rodriguez. Anybody else got any ideas what we're doing? There's another option. There's one more option on the table you can do.
Everybody does more time.
Everybody does more time. One more. Okay, so there's one more option. Oh, still there. All right, so
You do more time.
you do more time. So just the host does more time. You earned it. You've been doing the show forever. You deserve a longer set. You know what? Bump that feature down to host. You're featuring tonight. That's the thing you can do. Or you can bump your feature. Let's face your headliner. You bump your feature to headliner. Everybody goes up one slot, and you book a replacement person at the bottom. And now it's a little bit easier. Everybody's like, oh, great, I'm still doing the show. I'm not getting paid less than the person who got added last second. That's the thing you can do. Obviously, your best option, book a new person in that same position. But it's not always easy. Headliners are busy. They're headliners. But here's the thing. Last second replacements happen. Don't take it personally. We all have lives. We're all human beings, right? However, do not let the person who canceled on you pick the person that's replacing them. Because you spent your time making this lineup, right? You know how it's supposed to work. It's staggered in a way, if you're doing it right, that you're building and ebbing and flowing, and the show builds. And if you've got somebody who doesn't match that lineup, all that works for nothing. Don't let them pick it. And if you're a comic who's canceling, don't offer that stuff. Unless they ask you, hey, do you have somebody you would pick to replace? Because maybe there's somebody for the car, right, for the other person. Even then, ask the person who's doing the fucking show still, who they'd have replace them. Let's see here. Don't hold cancellations against people unless it's really constant. We all have lives and families and jobs. Things happen. I was on a show recently where the host was like, this comic's not here. I need somebody to fill the time. I just happened to be there. And he's like, can you do the time? I'm like, sure. And he goes on stage to introduce me and blasts this comic for not showing up. And I don't know if you guys know this story or not. That comic had died on the way to the show. So, cancellations happen. Don't call people out on stage when they're not there. What do you get from that? So, anyway, just know that shit happens. Cancellation happens. No shows happen. You need to know how to fix it. If it's last second, like literally a no-show, see there's a comic in the audience that you trust to do that time. That's what. Also, go to shows when you're not on them. You never know. And always have 2 or 3 people in mind when you're booking your lineup. Who would I book if this person failed to show up? Like, no, oh yeah, because of this person. Like, there's people I know who have jobs that, they work emergency calls. So they have to, they don't know what's happening until it's happening. And so you have to know that about them and be like, I got to have a backup in mind in case something comes up with this person's work. So you need to have backups for anybody that you're booking. And when you're doing the reach outs, hopefully they give you enough time to do this. If they give you enough heads up that they can't make it, send your message out to the first person you want to book. Give them about 30 minutes to respond before moving on to your next person. Worst case, you have no time. Fire off messages to the 2 or 3 people you want to book and let them know. First come, first serve. And then tell them when the spot's booked. So, speaking of, I think this is my next slide. Oh yeah, before I forget, when should you start booking your show? Okay, it's not quite what I thought I was going to have here, but whatever. When you start booking your show, at least 2 weeks beforehand, if not 4, preferably 4. As far out in the future as you can, book your show so you can get all your promo materials sorted out, anything you forgot about. If you're prone to bouts of laziness and depression, like some people, the more time you have to stall is better. It's like, I just remember, I don't even have headshots. I should probably make a flyer. The show is 2.5 weeks away. And then I just stared at my phone and was like, I'm not sending that message. I had time. I just didn't have the energy to do it. So the longer you have to do that, the better. And of course, the question: how do you book somebody? What kind of info do you think you have to give people when you're making a booking offer? Like, what things do you tell them straight up, no questions asked? What information are you giving them? All right, pay. How much are they getting paid? Time. How much time are they doing? Venue. Where are you doing this show? Very good. Anything else you want to give them? Who's on the lineup? David, you're killing it. You got 2 more pretty important pieces of information you want to give them. The date.
Time and location.
What day are they doing the show? Kind of important. What's the other one? The time
and
the show
location.
starts. Look at this guy. 5 for 5. Let's just pull him up. Date. Time. Location. Set length. Pay. Look at that. Got them all. And then other benefits is there free food or drinks involved, is there lodging involved. If you have those things, let them know that. And then any other odd things like, hey, this is your base pay, but we do tips, so you might make more beyond that. This is a clean show. Clean show, is that TV clean? Is that church clean? Is it a kink room where you need a password to get in? That's maybe a thing you need to tell them about. Tell them, hey, it's in the back room. It's going to look like there's no show, but it's actually downstairs, or whatever the thing. Let them know those pertinent details, so they don't be like, oh, this is weird. Is this? I'm in the wrong. Then you get messages, and you're busy running a show. You don't see the messages. They leave. That doesn't happen to me because I know what the fuck I'm doing, but I imagine it's probably happened to somebody. All right, great. You booked your venue and your lineup. All right, guys, here it is. It's not TV. It's not HBO. It's showtime, baby. We're doing a show. All right, I didn't actually do that. All right, psych. There's always more work. Always more work. You got to do your promo. And I like the slow-mo just for the rhyme. It's just the rollout of promotional materials. You can promote whatever you want, but this is my personal schedule. I like to do a post about 2 weeks out, usually the Friday, like 2 Fridays before, 1 week out the Friday or Saturday before, and then I do a post the Monday before, day before the show, day of the show. People don't plan in advance anymore. We live in a here and now moment, So promo the day of, the day before is the most important. You're going to get a lot of stuff on that. When you're doing a ticketed show, when you're doing something where they're selling tickets, your venue will be panicking. You will be getting text messages, phone calls. We don't have the ticket sales. What are we going to do? Should we cancel this show? What's happening? We've only sold 25% of these seats. Oh my God, we're in ruin. And sometimes you got to let them cancel the show. If you had a bad show last time where they broke even or didn't make money or barely made money, maybe you cancel the show. But over time, you'll learn that the walk-ups, the people that buy that ticket at the door, are going to show up. I brought a show back after COVID. We're charging $10, and the venue's like, we don't have anything. We've sold 10 tickets. This is going to be real bad. But we built in a structure. We knew we were coming back. We built in a pay structure. Like, here's the minimum we'll pay, and then depending on tickets sold, we'll make more money. And like, we're going to lose money, but like, we'll still do the show. I walk into that venue an hour before showtime, and it is full of people who bought tickets that day. So that's the reality of shows now. People are coming last second. They're not making plans in advance, and you need to be aware of that and know how to calm down your venue. But you also have to face reality that sometimes that show just isn't going to be busy. Not every show is going to sell out. So you got to kind of look at your history on that. All right. So as you're doing the promo stuff, you also want to make sure that your venue is aware of things. You want to make sure that your venue and the staff, because they're doing a lot of the face-to-face stuff with customers, knows when the show is, who's on the show, what's that person like, is it going to be a good show? Because they're going to be the point of contact for most potential customers. They're at a bar, they're like getting a drink, they're having conversations with the owner or the staff. They're like, this is really fun. I'm loving this space. I love this space. Like, oh, we also do comedy next Thursday. Because they're not going to come back tomorrow. That's the worst time to tell somebody you got a comedy show this tomorrow. But if you tell them we got a comedy show next week and it's these people and the staff is excited about that comic, they're going to be more likely to tell customers who inquire about what else is going on at this venue or how much they like this venue. You can kind of pitch the show if they know what to pitch. If they don't know what to pitch, they're like, oh, we have comedy. Oh, like what? I don't know. That's not helpful. So you need to make sure that your venue knows what you're giving them and that their staff knows what's being brought in. So yeah, tell them about the performers. Very helpful. Send them a YouTube link. Make them set them down and watch a YouTube with them. Especially when you're booking your show for the first time, tell them who you would want to book for the first show and show them a video. That's how you get a venue to be like, oh, this person knows funny people. This will be a funny show. And then this one I learned recently. I knew it. I knew this lesson. I just forgot it because COVID. Make sure to follow up with your performers the day of, or the day before. Remind them that the show's happening. You can send that group message when you have the flyer weeks in advance. Don't forget to circle back right before the show, or else some people won't show up. So do that. And of course, at the very least, send them their flyer once it's available, and see if they share it. If they're sharing the flyer, most likely they haven't forgotten about your show. Maybe you don't need to follow up because they shared it that day. Everybody shared it. You're like, great, no need to check in. They're aware of it as far as that goes. Oh, shit. Sorry to Dylan Collins. I'm very sorry. It wasn't a personal thing. All right. And then one thing about promotion. Promotion is not tagging 99 people on Facebook. Just because you have 99 friends, like comedy show, tagging all the people who aren't comedians. Comedy show, tagging all the people who are comedians. That's not how you promote. I can't say this enough. Promotion is not tagging 99 people on Facebook. Promotion is not tagging 99 people on Facebook. If you want people to not come to your show, tag away. Because nobody's coming to that show because it's clearly not run by a professional. All right. So getting back to that beloved/dreaded group message. What are we putting in there? Remind them your date, time, venue, city, lineup order, set lengths, what kind of light you're going to get. You give them a 1 minute light, a 2 minute light, a 5 minute light. Tell me how much light you want. You need to get all that in there. Also tell them how the pay will be distributed. Are you giving them cash? Will it be digital? Are they going to be waiting for a check in the mail? That still happens. I don't do it. Because we live in a world where people pay with Venmo. They pay with debit cards. I have a Square reader on me in case you guys didn't have cash to donate and don't use Venmo. There's a way to get money immediately, and the fact that people are still like, I'll pay you later, is garbage. Don't be that person. They spent the money on gas and tolls today. Pay them today, if you can. If you know that the venue is kind of slow on payment, or that people have to leave early, make sure you got money in your account that you can pay the people who need to leave. And I know it's not possible for everybody. If it's not possible for you, make it clear. Hey, I got to wait until I'm paid. If you need to go, I'll Venmo you later. And that's fine. Just do it the next day. Don't wait 2 days. Don't wait 3 days. Unless you're doing a show on a Saturday, the bank's closed, didn't go through because your finances aren't great. We get it. Monday. That's fine. But don't make people chase you down for their money. They did your show. Pay them as quickly as you can. All right. Anyways, that's how, tell them about, if there's weird parking, let them know about the parking situation. How to find the venue if it's hidden, like if you there's no name on it really clear, the address doesn't get posted on there. Make it as easy as possible for you guys to get to your shows. And then of course expected arrival time, put that in there if that's expected. I think industry standards get there 10 to 15 early. If you want to put that in writing, go for it. And then a lot of people, so you guys have all done shows. Sometimes people won't give you the lineup until you're at the venue. If you're a booker, don't do that to your comics. Let them know what to expect as they're driving up. They should know before they leave. So they're not stuck with I thought I was doing 15, and it turns out you're doing 30. Or you thought you were doing 5, and you're doing 15. That's a different thing. You can't just give it to somebody. And you thought you were going to be the first one up, and now you're following the crusher guest set. You got to know that before you get there to have the best show possible. You need to have your lineups out to your comics as early as possible so they know what they're doing and what they're following and who's following them. So they kind of get the rhythm of the show. Because they know these comics too. All right. So for me, the group message, they can be fun and lighthearted, a lot of banter and fun in between stuff. I like to set a professional tone in mind where nobody says a fucking word. I will get the thumbs up and the heart reactions, and everybody shuts up till the day of the show unless they have a question. I don't like a lot of jibber jabber in my threads because, yes, I know the word is bad.
How do you establish that?
So mine doesn't have any humor in it at all. It's very professionally written. Hey, thanks for doing the show. I say thanks in advance for doing my show. This is what the show is going to be. Here's where it's at. Here's the date. Here's the time. Here's the order. Here's the set length. Here's how much time you're doing. Here's when the light will be. Here's where the light will be. It's very professional and clinical. And I like that because people don't talk a lot. I'm not getting notifications on my phone, draining my battery. Ugh. I don't want to be, I'm like, oh, more in-jokes. You can't see it on the video, but I'm jerking off. All right. And also the problem with that constant conversation is now you got to scroll so far for that permanent info day of the show. You're like, crap, who is going second? It's no longer easily accessible. You're scrolling through all kinds of garbage and GIFs and but teach your own. If you like that kind of thing in your group text, go for it. I don't care. It happens to happen in mine. I get it. But for the most part, mine don't get that way. Because I read it professionally and kind of leave it as this is the professional place where we exchange information. All right, it's your first show. For real this time. We did it. Are you guys excited? You're going to do your first show. You finally get to see the fruits of your labor pay off. So, first thing you did, you booked Absolute Killers, right? Then you make sure that the owner or the manager of the establishment is there. That means they have bought in. If they don't show up for your first show, they're probably not actually that interested in the show continuing. You can't trust they're going to be an ally in future promotion. Make sure somebody who has power and authority in that venue's there. Also, they're probably the ones that have most access to the money. You make sure you're getting paid that night. So please, for the love of God, make sure that they're there. Lights, make sure they exist and you know how to use them. Sound, make sure they're there and you know how to use them. If they're not there, you better find out how to get them. Seating, like we talked about earlier, people don't really know how to seat for comedy. That's kind of your job. Make sure seating's available, present. They have a view line for the show. Do that stuff all before the show starts. Get there early because you got to do all that stuff. You got to sound check. You got to light check. You got to reestablish things. You got to fix bugs that come up. Like I had the first show at Tilted Match. They were using a wireless mic. Their wireless mic was in another room. No line of sight. No sound. There was no sound the first show. But it wasn't my first show, which means I had speakers and stuff in my car. I'm prepared. But you don't know that. It's your first show. You need to make sure that you're there for troubleshooting. Venue staffing. Get to know your venue staff. Know their names. Know who's the point of contact for any issues that come up. Who's handling lighting. Who's handling music, because they got to turn the music off because nobody can sit in silence at a venue. So there's always music playing. You got to know who do I talk to turn this music off when the show starts. And talk to them to turn it back on when the show's ending. And then, of course, because of that, you also want to make sure that in your show you're reminding the people that are there to tip their bar staff. That's an important part of ingratiating yourself in there as well. And if you're hosting, which I recommend you do for any show you're running, because when you control the show, you control quality. That's you control information. You control the mail. You control information from Seinfeld. Thank you. Okay. All right. So you're hosting. You got to prepare the audience before the show and during your hosting set. So what you want to do is when you're doing the sound check, a lot of people go check 1, 2. We all know it. Check, 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 check. That's a garbage. It's one sound. It's a garbage way to mic check. What you should say is, hey, can everybody hear me in the back? Just so you know there's going to be comedy in 20 minutes. If you're not comfortable with comedy, there's another room over here, or go ahead and close your tabs out now. I apologize, but come back tomorrow. It won't be a comedy. We're going to do comedy again this time, so don't come that day either. Just really make it clear. It's your chance to set the audience up for an expectation of a good comedy show. Let them know you've got comics coming from out of town. You've got this person who's got this Netflix thing. That's what you use sound check for to me. Also, you make sure you can hear in the back. And also, fun fact about sound, we'll get into it. What it sounds like when the room is empty is not how it sounds when it's full. So if you're doing your sound check half hour early, the place isn't really filled in yet, just know you might have to adjust your levels. If they're barely hearing you in the back then, you're probably going to turn it up as the show comes in. All right. And then during your hosting set, of course, set the expectation. It's going to be a good comedy show, what to expect, all that fun stuff. Keep your audience involved throughout. Remind them that it's fun to be there. All right. And then once you do your hosting set, you've brought up your first comic, you're just going to sit back and relax, right? No. You're never going to see a comedy show again in your life. You'll never see comedy. You'll always be doing something. I like to walk that space, make sure it sounds good everywhere. You'd think the front sounds best. I have venues where the front seat is the worst seat in the house. You can't hear a fucking thing because the sound goes over their heads because it's so high up. Lighting. Can you see this person's face from every angle? Maybe there's a dark spot. You got to fix your lighting because now one side of the audience is doing the person's doing a physical bit and this person can't see what's happening. You need to make sure that everybody can see and hear what's happening. And every comic's different. They're louder. They're quieter. They're shorter. They're taller. So there's a constant adjustment throughout the entire show. You'll never see comedy again. So do what you can in the moment to fix those problems. Take notes of the things that came up and double check those next time to avoid them being a problem on your next show. All right. Other basic show running stuff. The show, everyone wants to know how to promote a show. To me, the show is an advertisement for itself. I think I've kind of pounded that into your guys' head a lot, that a good show promotes itself. So use it that way. Use the end of the show to promote the next show. When you're closing out the show, remind them you'll be back next month, next week, whatever it is. Let them know. If you know who's coming, tell them who's coming. Take pictures throughout the show. Take a picture of every comic who's performing, preferably not blurry and terrible. Maybe get a good camera, maybe don't. Take a picture of every comic who's performing. Take pictures of the crowd before the show starts. take pictures of the crowd laughing while the show's ongoing, take pictures with the comics at the end of the night. Me personally, I hate being in them. You don't need to be in them. That's fine. Just make sure that there's like things that show that they had a good time, the audience is laughing, the show was good. Take pictures that kind of show how big the audience is. If you see promotions for like booking agents, because there's people try to snipe my rooms, and I'll look them up. Like if you see an Instagram page like we do show running, and all they have is pictures of the comics, they put on bad shows. Because any good show would show the audience having a good time. When you see no pictures of the audience, it's a bad show. When I was doing those pictures of like, hey, what's a great venue, what's a bad venue? I have venues that are not particularly well designed for comedy. But you don't see the picture, the design. I like very carefully stage my shots to show the best aspects. I was like, oh yeah, well, that's great in the moment, but now I need to show people what a bad show looks, or a bad room looks like. I don't have those pictures because I know not to take them. So even that 17 Fox one, I had to go back to like 2 months after they opened, when they were still doing promo to like ramp up stuff, because they learned really quick that's not a good layout. It was never in a shot again. So anyway, I think I was getting off track here. All right. Okay, so yeah, you're taking these pictures, you're posting them after the show, so they're not only great promotion for the show you just did, but they're also great promotion for the next show. So it also helps to remind people that came to the show of what they experienced. They see that picture online, they remember that they had a good time, so you can post it before the next show. Hey, last show we had this. And they're like, oh yeah, I did have fun last time. And it also tells those people who were on the fence about coming out that they missed something great. So pictures are a lot of fun, cycle them through, all that stuff. So great, we did it. Your headliner's on stage. So let's cue the confetti and the balloon drops, because we fucking did it. You got to the end of your show, your headliner's up there. It's a wrap. Ah, crap, sorry, just kidding. It's time to work on show number 2. They call it show number 2 because it should be the shit. Show number 2 should be the shit. All right, so you got to check. While your headliner's on stage, you want to check with your venue, owner, manager, booker, whatever, about their enjoyment and whether or not they want to do another show. Now, the nice part is, if you're having a good show, they're high. They're having a great time. They definitely want to do this again. But still double check with them. Do you want to do this? Do you want to maintain the schedule we currently have? Confirm the scheduling of the next show with them. Put it on the books as soon as possible. You have a date that's there. That way, you can tell the audience at the end, come back next month or whatever the next show date is. We're here again this time. You have that down. It's confirmed. You're not guessing. If you're good enough, confirm that date and start reaching out to headliners. Maybe by the end of the show, you can say, come back next Thursday. We've got this person. If you're good enough with the connections, you send them off. They end up looking on their phones at the time. Maybe you can book your next show before you're finished with this show. So great, you did it. Show's over. Headliner killed. You told them about the next show. See you next month. Fuck. Nope. Still things to do today, unfortunately. You got to wrap up your show. You got to do your closing hosting duties. You got to thank your comics for coming out. They're probably going to talk your ear off. You got to thank your audience for coming. Maybe do an individual face-to-face thank you. Remind them to tip their wait staff. Because again, comedy is here really to give the venue money and make them want to bring you back. And then if you have the new dates and a new performer, tell them about it. If not, tell them. If you don't have the date even, at the end of the show, still tell them, hey, don't forget to follow me on Twitter or whatever the hell you're using. Follow the venue for more information about our next show. Just make sure that they know there's a next show. Even if it turns out there is no next show, make sure that if you haven't booked it yet, it still has the anticipation of a second show. God, why can't I click a button? All right, great. See you next month. Just kidding again. I can't believe you guys are falling for this stuff. There's so much work. Good Lord. Just so you know, I am going to send you guys this presentation and this video so you guys can reference it wherever you need to later. After you do your closing stuff on stage, you want to talk to your audience. You want to get feedback from the people who actually came to the show. It's not what you experienced. I have a great time on all kinds of bad comedy shows. I love comedy. That's why I do comedy shows. What you want to know is what your audience got out of it. Who did they like? Who did they not like? Why did they like them? Why did they not like them? Hey, is this day of the week a good day for you? Is this a day that you would come to a comedy show again, or is it kind of a fluke that you were available today? Look at me. This is the one slide I knew what I was talking about, apparently. You want to get your venue's feedback. Did they make money? Did they like the show? So you want to talk to the owner. You want to talk to the manager. You want to talk to the staff. Staff is key. I really can't, as much as you're dealing with the ownership and managers about money and all that promotional stuff, you want to make sure that staff's on board because that makes your job so much easier. You want to talk to them about what problems did you see? What problems did we have as a venue, as a show? How can we fix them moving forward? Hey, it turns out that your sound system isn't as good as you thought it was. Something's wrong with this, or we need to find out a place, like there's nowhere to put lights. It's something we can think of and troubleshoot in the future. Maybe you want to get entirely new stuff. You want to figure out what didn't work in promotion. They probably have analytics of anything that they did. You could probably too. I don't. And then you want to figure out how you can maintain what you got tonight on the next show. And then after that, please help tear down. If you didn't bring the stuff, still help put stuff away. They're working hard, doing other stuff too. They're trying to close. Just help out where you can. And then, like I said earlier, tip the fuck out of your bar staff every show. All right. So that's what we're doing at the end of your first show. So here's a secret that no one but me will tell you because I love you. Or comedy. Maybe both. Maybe I love both comedy and you. But I'm going to tell you this secret that no one else will tell you. You guys ready? That first show, much like the cake, is a lie. So, here's the thing. Anybody can put on a successful show. One successful show. Putting on 2 successful shows is pretty easy too. Not as easy, but pretty easy. So everyone will come to check out a new show. This is a new, exciting experience for them. This venue they love is finally doing comedy. There's been no comedy in this town for years. I can't wait to see comedy for the first time. Everybody's coming out to that first show for one reason or another. Getting them back for a second show, that's a good sign. You're doing a good job. Getting them back for a third, you're golden. As long as you can maintain your quality. And that stuff's not in booking. That's in your show running stuff. That this is a well-run show. All right, so now, if anybody wants to check out, you're allowed to. This is going to be the minutia time. I'm going to get into the real small, tiny stuff that helps make a show successful. So your first show is over. You've got your second show. You're probably starting to book it out. You're excited. So what's next? You're going to maintain contact with your venues and make sure to remind them to hold up their end of the bargain that they've agreed to. If they're agreeing to do the flyers, get on them. Hey, where's my flyer? Don't be like that. Obviously, you got to be friendly, but remind them, hey, I need the flyer. Are you guys still going to make the flyer? Should I be looking into a flyer maker? Hey, I see you haven't been promoting the show. Can you make a post about it? Things like that. You want to make sure that you're in contact with them regularly so that they don't fail next time. Because they're going to get cocky too. They're like, I had a good show. We're set. We killed it. Second show's going to be the exact same. It's not. It's never the same. You have to do the exact same stuff. Do not assume you have a well-oiled machine. You don't. It will always be work, yes.
So it just occurred to me that like most of the places you're going to be, venues are going to have their own social media probably, and you're kind of probably hoping to see them promote your show on their social media.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that they're promoting on their social media. As part of my part of pitching these shows, I let them know in no uncertain terms that nobody's coming to see Ben Rice perform comedy. They are coming to see comedy at your venue. They want an additional reason to come because they like you. That's why people run shows running at their favorite places because they like that place and they want to see it succeed and they want to give that thing another level of success. So I pitched that pretty hard. That as much as I can do, it will never compare. Look at any follower count. Theirs is way bigger than yours. They have a bigger audience because they offer a service every day to a clientele. You don't do that. You offer a service once a month that nobody remembers. I still get asked if I'm just a regular staff member who just happens to be around. I've been running shows for years, So, yeah, really, really impress on them that they need to hold their end of the bargain. Because at the end of the day, if the venue's not on board, the show's a failure. I don't care how much hard work you put in. If that venue doesn't care, you can't get anything. You might sell all the tickets hand to hand, go out, beat the streets, and sell 100 tickets, and every person that bought a ticket for some reason from a stranger came. They're not going to come. You got to do that every time because the venue's not supporting you. You need to make sure that you don't have to do all that work because it's going to fail eventually. And then what's it worth? How much time did you spend selling those $100 tickets hand to hand when you could have just been like, leave them at the bar here, and they can sell them? But if they don't want to, you're done. All right, so now you've done the first show. It'll always be work. You look at what works, what didn't, what things can you improve on. Maybe you upgrade your flyers. Maybe you make them a little bit more pizzazz. Maybe like you had enough money that you made that you're like, I can pay a professional to make a flyer instead of this fly-by-night thing I did. Maybe you want to upgrade your equipment. And while you're building your audience, this is the thing you need to know. Every time you're doing a show, you're building your audience and you're training your audience in how to act at a comedy show, how to talk about a comedy show, how to handle everything. You need to make sure that it's clear what the expectation is. Don't film our comics, don't put it on TikTok or whatever the fuck live stream they're doing. Don't put it on Facebook Live. Like, you need to teach this audience how to be a comedy audience because you're not at a comedy club. This show's not for running shows at comedy clubs. It's for running random places who maybe didn't know comedy was happening. But if you do it well, your audience will understand what they're getting into and how to behave for that time. All right. So if you're going to use the word of mouth method for promoting your show, I don't like to be the guy like, hey, I got this comedy show, you should check it out, just out of nowhere. Don't be that guy who's just yelling at people in public spaces or private spaces, like, I got the comedy show, you should check it out. If you just have me talking to somebody and it turns out that they're interested in comedy, maybe then you bring it up, because now it's a casual, friendly conversation. It's a little bit more effective, more bang for your buck, you're not wasting your time, and you made a friend, which is pretty cool. All right, show 2! Lather, rinse, repeat, right? Just do that same stuff like I was saying. Apply any information you receive, make any changes you need to make. Remind yourself that everything you did for the first show, you have to do again. All right, there's no shortcuts to success. Over and over, same stuff, every single time. Remind your venue, then you do the same stuff too. I had a show, sold out, 4 shows in a row. Crushed it. Comedians were killer. They were making crazy tips. They made a bunch of money, sold every ticket. 5th show, they got cocky. They're like, we don't need to promote the show as well. We'll mention it, 3 days before the show. We sold 5 tickets. They had to cancel a show that they had sold out 5 times because they didn't do their work. So you got to keep them in the loop. You got to keep on them. And you got to remember that they are business owners. They are busy with other stuff. Your comedy show isn't even in the top 20 things that they care about right now. So don't be afraid to remind them gently about things. Don't be mad if they don't respond that day, the next day. You've got to know a few weeks out, and I haven't seen anything, I'll remind you to do this stuff. And ask them, hey, is there somebody else I can talk to as well to help with this stuff? I'm doing that right now. There's a venue I'm working with, done 2 shows, they've gone very poorly. And I was talking like, these aren't doing great. They're like, oh, well, the person you're talking to isn't really, they kind of have to do everything around here, and they're really bad at delegating, and they're also bad at remembering to do the things that they're going to do. So just reach out to this other person instead in the future. And so hopefully that'll fix the problem. So even I can still screw up, because that's a person I know. And I knew that about that person, how busy they were. So I kind of left them alone. I sent 2 texts and a message, didn't get a response. I was posting on social media. They weren't getting shared, weren't even getting liked. I was like, this might not be great. And it turns out it was not great. And that's me knowing that, but that's me also working with a friend. I want to give him a chance, and so we're working on it. So yeah, even me, the guy talking, it's no guarantees, because I still do things that I know I shouldn't. You're still going to do things you know you shouldn't. You're going to forget steps. It happens. All right, so let's get into, this is the real fun stuff, live sound. I have found that many venues are set up for music, which is a very different thing than being set up for comedy. So you need to know a little bit about the basics of live sound. And I bet you didn't see this lesson coming. Who saw that I was going to talk about how to do sound? Who expected that? Nobody. All right. But live stand-up comedy is 2 things. There's a comic, there's a way to project sound. That's all a comedy show is. So you need to know this stuff. Because maybe the sound guy's out sick. Maybe there is no sound guy. Maybe something goes wrong with the sound mid-show. You don't know what to do. You should know what to do. So, my first point when it comes to sound, fuck a wireless mic. Fuck them. They're the worst. And you're like, nah, counterpoint. But they're so cool. And they're expensive. And I feel cool holding them. And I look cool holding them. They're great. I love a wireless mic. My point, yeah, a good wireless mic is great. But $300 for a wireless mic may seem expensive. It's not. It's dirt fucking cheap. $5,000 mic systems are expensive and good. but most venues you're working with paid $300 to $700 for their system, and it's garbage. Counterpoint, a lot of killer musicians use wireless mics. My point, yeah, because they weren't using them at professional music venues that have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in equipment to make sure they sound good. And they're run by professional sound people. And they know how to lay out the room to properly utilize a wireless mic. Do we know how wireless mics work?
Frequency.
Frequency, right. Now, what are the barriers to frequency? You need to have, the receiver has to pick up what's being put into the mic. How is it doing that? What are the barriers, and are there any blockades that can affect that transmission?
Absolutely.
What do you got?
Local police, everything. Building can block the way the building is. Concrete.
Yeah, concrete buildings.
Metal buildings.
Metal buildings. That's a lot of spaces you're in now. A lot of people would like to do industrial design.
Dumping on your signal.
Yeah, other signals in the area. A lot of things can interact with it. And a lot of venues don't consider it. They think that they should, and it's also, they're an expensive system. So oftentimes the venue will hide that system so that customers can't access it or steal it. So what you're doing is you're taking the system that requires, wireless mics require for best effect a clear line of sight. The only way to get that consistently is mounting it on your ceiling and putting nothing in between that and the venue and the stage area. And most venues don't do that because it could fall. That's a liability. Your ceiling's not going to be high enough. Somebody could get up there and take it or damage it. You know, you never know. So most people don't do that. What do? They put it behind the bar. They put it in their, if they're a restaurant, I've seen it in kitchens. Like, what are you talking about? So the reality is you're running a comedy show at a venue whose main source of income is not music, is not live stand-up comedy. They have bought a wireless mic, and it's a low-level wireless mic. And when you buy a low-level one, you also get less control on your sound quality because those receivers will have one button. Volume. End of list. What you put in is what you get out. You can't change it in any way. If it's a weak microphone, it's not designed well, it's a cheap, flimsy model, you're going to get bad sound. And then they've also, like I said, placed those controls as far away from the stage as possible with no clear line of sight, with usually at least one concrete wall in the way, almost guaranteed at least, if not 3. I've seen 3. And the mics will work, kind of, but they'll cut out. They'll be weird. It won't sound great, which is very, very bad because, again, it works by line of sight. And then oftentimes they're running that, whatever's coming sound is coming in, they're running it into like surround sound speakers that are pointed downward at a concrete floor, so you're getting all kinds of echo, and it's just making it all muddy. I've had ones where they're running into, we have a sound system. We paid $3,000 for a surround sound system, and one of these sets of microphones is just playing into cardboard boxes. So now you've got no sound going through that. That speaker's doing literally nothing now. And now it's fucking with the sound because the surround sound is designed to make sure that everything sounds right, working in unison, and now one's not even doing its job. And then, of course, if you're lucky, you've got this crappy wireless mic. It's only got the gain on it, so you can't really control anything about sound. But if you're lucky, that wireless system's also run into a mixer where now you can start to mess with the highs, the mids, the lows, echo effects, and things like that. You can start to kind of alter your sound. Bad news is if you've got a low quality, low expense wireless mic, you've probably got a low cost, low quality mixer as well. So you're probably not going to get great sounds. Speaking of mixers, you guys know them, right? We all remember when we got our first mixer and we were 6, and we're like, oh boy, I can't wait to do live comedy in 20 years. I'm gonna know it all, right? So you kind of have to futz around with this stuff and learn. Do you know how to mix a live spoken vocal on an industry standard mixer? Do you know, if you walked over to Art's mixer, would you know how to set that up to sound good in this room? Do you even have the first steps on how to do that? All right, so Art's got a pretty good mixer. So
that's why I don't let anybody touch it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to touch it. So I knew that going in. You don't mess with people's stuff. So if you don't know how to do it, I'm going to teach you some very basic stuff. I was going to show you several arrangements of levels and how much echo should you put on this thing and how much reverb and delay and all this stuff, because I have a mixer at home. And then I remembered that I gave that away. So I don't. What I have is a fairly expensive combo speaker mixer, that only has adjustments to the highs and the lows. That's all you can adjust. You can't adjust mids. You can't put any effects on it or anything like that. All you get is highs and lows. And so I've taken a bunch of pictures of positions, right? of ways that you could move these knobs. You tell me what you think will result in a good, live, natural-sounding voice. You've been to venues where it sounds like there's a robot on stage. It's because they've got their levels wrong, okay? One venue, I fixed that, and they immediately turned it back, and I was very upset. So I'm going to run through a bunch of settings with you guys. I want you guys to shout out if you think this is a good way to set up your sound on it, okay? And you can guess multiple times, okay? It's not like you only get one choice because there's so many pictures. All right, you guys ready? Can you all see it? All right. Setting 1. This is with everything cranked as high as they can go.
Terrible.
We got a terrible. We got art with a terrible. Not great. This is bad. Don't do this. All right, next one. Everything turned all the way down. No, it seems like if all the way up's bad, all the way down also bad.
I have a question. Was the first one, was it the mixer or was it the amplifier?
So this is actually, like I was saying, because you had a phone call.
Yeah, sorry.
So this is my speaker at home. It's in one system.
Okay.
So I said I was going to take a mixer, and I remember I'd given mine away. I didn't have it. So it's really, I wish I had the mediums. Here's a hint. Medium, put it in the middle. For human voice, put medium in the middle. Some of them are real fancy. You have 2 mediums. What do? Leave it in the middle. Really, for human voice with no effects, because if you're a rock star, you're going to be using vocal processing. You got to mess with that stuff because it means something. But in the human voice, it's really just the highs and the lows you want to mess with. And by the way, this is all based on the idea of an industry standard mixer, like just run-of-the-mill mixer. There are certain mixers that are so bad. I had one I turned the bass all the way down and it was still too bassy. The lows all the way down and it was still too bassy. That's what I should say that. So the high, you're adjusting how much the high frequency of a voice gets amplified more than normal. So if you've got a low bassy speaker, you probably want their highs up so it sounds more natural, and you want their lows down because they're already providing a lot of low. So men, you want to turn the low down and the high up. And for women, you want to turn the high down and the low up. But because it's the human voice spectrum, it's not a particularly wide spectrum, it's not a big adjustment. It's not like, oh God, I got to go all the way to the right with one. And then you're going to stay in the same basic range, which is why this thing I'm showing you will make sense no matter how you're doing. These are the basics. You can twiddle a little bit in the margins. All right, next option we got, I went back for art, sorry. All right, next one we got, everything straight up the middle.
Good starting point.
Good starting point. So this is a great place to start, right? You can start adjusting either way to get an idea. As if you have a good ear, you can listen and figure out what you're doing. All right, so that's a good starting point. Now we've got one, the highs all the way down, the lows all the way up.
Terrible.
Terrible. Let's just speed through this. That is terrible. He's correct. Next one, we got the highs all the way up, the lows all the way down. Terrible again. You're going to have a real tinny. This is going to give you so much feedback. It's going to be incredible. Don't ever do this. Never all the way up. That's all right. And then we got one. This one's a tricky one. It's about halfway between medium and high on the highs, and halfway between medium and low on the lows. How do you feel about this one? Art's saying no. You're saying depends on the mixer? Depends on what the equipment you got around it? Okay. Anybody else? All right. So we're kind of like maybe on this, right? So we're kind of on maybe. All right. So the next one we got halfway between medium and low on the highs, and halfway between medium and high on the lows. How's this one going to be?
I don't like it.
He doesn't like it. Art shaking his head no. All right, this one will not be good. This will be squeaky. It'll be rumbly. It'll be muddled. It'll be muddy. It's not going to be a good sound because you're cranking up the natural bass in a human voice, which already exists for everybody. So you're going to have if you're playing a bass guitar, it might sound great. Really heavy, chunky low end. That'd be cool. But we're not doing that. We're doing comedy. All right, here we go. We've got one more. It's just slightly left of middle on both high and low.
Hear the voice.
What's that?
I want to hear the voice.
Yeah, you have to hear the voice. This might work for certain voices. So this might work for a particularly squeaky voiced person. This might be okay. All right, this one we got. I'm slightly right on both from the middle. Getting some okays.
Getting close.
getting close. Yeah, this one's weird to me because I don't think you need to do somebody who's both high voiced and low voiced is pretty rare. They need to boost both of them, so I don't really see that coming in. Here we go. We've got one that's quarter turn to the right on both of them. How do we feel about this one? So you're boosting bass, or you're boosting the highs. How are we feeling about it?
I have a question. What's happening in the mid-range?
So the middle, like I said, is you're just going to leave that
That's where
one.
your vocal is.
So, yeah.
But is that on the speaker?
So this speaker, like I said, does not have, it's just right in the middle.
I mean,
So this one naturally is middle, it's right in the middle. It doesn't have that option. Like I said, I was going to use a real mixer, but I didn't have one anymore. I forgot I'd given it away.
And at your shows, do you ever run music through the speaker and you
Yeah.
right before and after? So how does when you
It's fine.
Okay.
It's good enough. That one I'll change the volume. That'll be the main issue because it will overwhelm it. And it'll have a different input than the actual mic, so that's helpful. If you have the right mixer, every mixer that's a quality mixer will have each line dedicated to its own mic. So this one doesn't. It's only got the one mixer. It's not great, but it does the job. But if you get a real mixer and you put everything through that, everything will have its own individual line. You can adjust everything the way you need it to. But for human voice, the middle doesn't really matter because you need to leave it in the middle. And this one assumes the middle for a middle level. All right. And then we've got it quarter turn to the left on each high and low. How do we think this one's sounding? I feel like I'm spending so much time on this. All right. Here we go. All right, so we've got it a little bit to the left on the highs, a little bit to the right on the lows. So we're cranking up the bass a little bit. We're turning down the high-pitched stuff a little bit. How do we think this one's going to come out?
It's got a real high voice. Might work.
Yeah, if you've got a real high voice with not much bass in it, this might be where you want to be. It's a little bit left of center on that.
To me, the both of the out of every one of these pictures, the thing is, you don't want that red clip light on.
Right.
That's the worst thing you can have. If you're clipping the.
Yeah, if you're clipping, and we'll get to that also, volume stuff in a second here. And here we have one where it's slightly right of center for the highs, slightly left of center for the lows. How do we feel about this one? Like it? Art likes it. This guy likes it. Yeah, you guys. All right, so this, to me, on a good mixer, this is where you want it. About one spot over to the right for highs, one spot over, maybe two on lows. You should get a very natural sound out of that on pretty much any mixer you use. So if you see a mixing board, look for the high, crank it a little bit. Look for the low, turn it a little bit. Other than that, mediums, put them in the middle. And then when it comes to effects, a lot of mixers, they'll have reverb and all this other stuff, echo, which is the same thing. For some reason, there's some of it all in there. With the live human voice for speaking, you want none of it. Turn it all off. Otherwise, you're going to have bad sound. You're going to have a literal echo. Do you want to hear this is a live comedy? You don't want it. Turn it all off. No effect. No doubling effect. Nothing in there. Because it will sound weird. It will be a bad show. Turn it all off. If you have that option. Great. We did it. All right. Next thing about live sound. Gain versus volume. Do we know the difference between gain and volume? Do we know what gain and volume are?
That gain is you're hitting the microphone, the gain that you're getting from the moving the filter, it's all physics. So gain, you go into the board, that'll clip you. If you give too much gain, that's going to give you the clip light.
Yeah. So this guy clearly does sound stuff in some way or has been around it enough. Yeah, so your gain is basically how much pressure your mic accepts. So what you're going to do is you got to turn your gain on. It gives the range of how far out from the microphone will pick up sound. That's what gain is. So what was I going to say here? Gain is the adjustable scale that tells your microphone how far to reach for sound. So when you're yelling in your head, hopefully, about how someone should hold a mic closer to their mouth, there are two solutions to that person's problem. Bringing the mic closer to their mouth, or the sound person lifting the gain up higher. So you can fix that by increasing the gain, and now the person who's holding the mic down here is hearable for everybody because now they're being picked up by the mic. However, as you said, too much gain, you're going to get that clip. It's going to start picking up things farther out. So while you may hear here, it's still picking up higher frequencies in the background, and you're going to end up getting a lot of background noise into the mic, which will sound weird. And then it also leads to the dreaded feedback. People think it's often volume, It is, in fact, gain that is causing that problem because it's creating an energy field, and your speakers are also creating an energy field, and now they're intersecting and they're feeding back against each other. So if you want to avoid feedback, keep your gain to a reasonable level. Once you find your gain at a reasonable level, where people kind of like chest here, like this is if you can hear the voice and it sounds natural, it sounds good, and they're not having to yell to hear, your gain's probably fine. Once you get there, then you hit volume. Then you start changing your volume, because that just increases the volume of the things that the mic is picking up. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Get a decent gain, then increase your volume. If the voice is clear at the mic and chest level, your gain's probably fine, like I said. For me, my all-in-one thing that I have, it doesn't have separate gain and volume. So unfortunately, I can't really show you anything in the picture right now, but just know, since I use an all-in-one speaker, volume and gain are unfortunately the same knob, but what you see here, where it's just slightly past the midline, is where you typically want your gain set on a typical mixer, just slightly past the middle. For reference, this is where I put my settings for my very large rooms, about 3/4, 80% all the way up, to make sure that you get the full sound throughout the venue. So I try to keep my speaker away from where people are standing to avoid the feedback issue. All right, mic types and cables. I was going to do a whole thing about this. We all wanted to get into the science of mic cables, right? Came to run a show, because there's TRS, there's USB, there's all kinds of stuff. Let me just say this. I could bore you with more photos you won't remember, but instead I'll just say this. XLR cables are the best. This is an XLR cable right here. 3 little dots, you connect them, boom, sound. They're sturdy, and most mixers are designed to accept them. A lot of them won't accept a USB. TRS, they're now building combo ones that do XLR and TRS. TRS is the little needle ones you see in a guitar. That's a TRS connector. You can do them for vocals, but it's kind of overkill, and they're harder to control on gain. So XLR is designed for the voice as far as I'm concerned. And there's a fun fact and helpful fact on, I said the next slide, it might actually be 2 slides away, but here's a fun fact for your comics when you lose a mic cable from your mic. All right, first hint, bring your own backup sound stuff at venues you're not sure about, okay? First show, if you have sound stuff, bring it along, because you know how your stuff, if you own stuff, you know how it works. You know how to fix problems. But what you need to do in order to change mics or the mic cable falls out while you're performing, do you guys know how to do that? Like when a mic cable falls out, you know what to do?
Plug it back in.
Plug it back in, right? But do you know how to plug it back in? You're fumbling around and twisting and right? You're probably like, I'll get it in here somewhere. I'll just keep jamming it till it fits, right? That's how a lot of people tend to do it. All right. So, and just before I get into this, I wanted to take one more shot at wireless mics. If they fail, getting a new one's not going to fix the problem, okay? Like, unless just literally the battery died, once your mic starts cutting out on a wireless mic, your show's done. All right, so this is mine. This is taken on a bed I have at home. So the secret to reconnecting a mic, if it's failing or you want to switch out mics because of health reasons, I got this arrow on the bottom. This is a clip on your XLR cable at the top of it. This is your microphone, and this is the connecting point. There's a little hole here. Here's the thing. Here's the trick. You guys ready for it? You line them up. You put the clip by the hole. Step 2, connect them. Because that's what it's designed for. That clip goes in that hole. If you have, I think, did I show you this, Joe? At Punchline? He's like, I don't know how to put the mic on. I'm like, you take your mic cable will have a lifted up, it's 3-dimensional, it stands out against anything else on that cord. Find your hole on the bottom of your mic, there's only one. Line those 2 things up, your mic's in, you look like a pro. You're not struggling, you're like, what? I gotta find out where the 3 on the bottom, you look at the bottom of this and the top of this, you're trying to fix, hole and clip. Done. You figured out your problem. I just saved you guys so much time and embarrassment. This is the most valuable part of this show. All right, speaker setup. Does speaker placement matter?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, it matters. If you put this microphone right next to this speaker right next to this microphone, it's going to be a feedback bonanza. It's going to be a disastrous show. So it absolutely matters. Will it sound the same if you put the speaker on the ground versus lifted like here? If I took this speaker and put it on the floor, would I get the same sound?
Absolutely not.
No, because the sound from this is going out in a 180 range, right? It's going up, it's going down. You put it on the ground, all that down is gone. All you're getting is up. And it's also distorting the sound because it's designed to take the entire width of it. So you want to get it on a stand. I helped out with a show. You were there at an outdoor show with the moving van. They had a speaker that they put on the ground, and they had no way to put it anywhere else, and it had no way to be put on a stand. And I had driven there because I lived in the area. I was like, hey, I live in the area, but I walked here. Can somebody give me a ride to my house? Went and grabbed my speaker, my stand, lifted it up. It was the biggest audience it had in a while. The sound traveled on the ground. That traveled maybe 5 rows in, and then the sound was gone. Nobody could hear anything. So get it up. So how does sound travel? Like I said, it's coming out in a 180-degree range like that from the speaker. So you're going to have this here. Boop, boop, boop. Tweeter, same thing. So we're going to do that. All right. So that's important to know that that's how sound travels. How does sound reflect and refract? So if it hits this wall, what is this wall made of, Art?
It's lath and plaster.
Lath and plaster. That's going to absorb that sound up. You're not going to get a lot of refraction back. But if you have a concrete wall with metal built into it, you know how it's going to happen. It's going to reflect all over. You're going to have a lot of echo. You know when you go into an industrial space and you yell out and your voice echoes back to you. There's a lot of echoing. What if we put this speaker and face it outside towards that glass? What's going to happen to the sound when it hits that glass? It's not going to bounce right back. It's going to go right through it. It's going to go right through it into that street. And now that sound's gone. So ideally you want it to be like this, where the sound just gets swallowed up by the room at the back of the room, not in the middle of the room, which bodies, by the way, absorb sound. Any physical object will absorb sound waves. So you want to make sure that you can power through that, which is why you need the volume up where you have it. All right. Any questions about that? All right. Was there pretty good volume? Good job on me for going back and looking at my notes to make sure I hadn't already talked about this. Is feedback there because you're quiet, like the nervous people in the movie? Or is there another cause? Remember, we all see the movie where the person's giving a speech at a wedding for the person they should be marrying, and you just hold it and it just starts feeding back because the mic knows you're nervous? It's not why it's doing it. We talked about it earlier. It's because it's picking up on frequencies within each other. They're intersecting, and they're literally feeding back against each other. They're fighting for their space. So you want to avoid that by placing your microphone and your speakers in specific ways. The best way to do it, make sure your speaker is at the front of your stage so that the microphone never even gets in that same line of sight. That's the best way to avoid it. Otherwise, just make sure you don't put your mic by the speaker. It's not hard. All right. And then, of course, don't put your gain too high. Don't get your levels too high. If you put your levels on the highs up, you're going to get that too. How do you fix feedback when it happens? First thing, turn down your gain. First result, gain down, because it gives less force field from your mic to the speaker. The other second things, you're going to start changing with your levels. Highs first, lows second. Maybe the speaker also has a problem with like how high you set that. So, all right, great. Proper mic stands and holders. I'm going to yell at Art. This will be fun. Right. That's not true. This is a multi-entertainment space, and there are no wrong answers in a multi-entertainment space. But for stand-up comedy, fuck all of this that you're seeing on this screen. A representation of that is, I know you have one. But you know what? Art's being a good boy today.
You're talking about the tripod base?
So what we're seeing here, this picture here, fuck every single thing about this mic stand for live stand-up comedy. This is for musicians. You can tilt this to pick up your guitar, your drums. That's what it's designed for. It is not designed for stand-up comedy. And this mic holder here is impossible. You can't get a mic in and out of this. This is designed to hold a mic in place. Unless you're planning on doing all your standing and talking in one place, this is a bad mic holder. Yeah, I also have, there's ones that you can clip at the bottom. It opens up in a butterfly pattern. That's not a good mic holder because there's a lot of work. It's tight. You can barely get your mic back in there once you've taken it out. And of course, I have the one that's called a ball in a cup. It's got a caged mic holder where there's barely a gap for the line to come through at the top. You guys have seen these ones, right? Where it's a cage around it. Like, I don't have a picture because I'm not going to look for all this stuff. Oh yes, this one here. Garbage. Because you got to pry it open to get it in there or slide it in. It's awkward. It's terrible. You want this. This is what you want. Just slides in, slides out. Some of them are tighter than other ones. You want a looser one. That's my personal thing on that. And then, because it's easier to get the mic in and out, of those ones. And then also these spindly legs are complete garbage. One of the things I also learned early on in comedy is the mic stand base matters because it's firm and it's it's maneuverable. It can start flopping around and now you can't put it down right. But also, a heavy, firm metal base is great for when an audience member doesn't like what you have to say. Because often shows don't have security. And they have audience members who might be a little bit rambunctious. And one way to kind of curtail that is to threaten them with a giant 5-piece pound of metal straight to the dome. So, yeah. So don't get these things. They're terrible. They're hard to adjust in the moment because those instrument mics, they're meant to tilt sideways and all that stuff. We just need straight up and down. We just need a straight up and down mic stand. So don't get these. They're awkward. They have those spindly legs. And I'm sorry for body shaming, but they're garbage. So this is what you want. This is your mic stand. You got it? And to raise and lower it, all you got to do is twist that thing to the left to loosen, pull up, turn right to tighten. When you're having trouble on stage, you're getting off of the mic, and you're like, I can't raise it. Just turn it left to loosen, righty, tighty. Just find that little knob. That's how you control that. Just tips for people who don't know how to use mic stands. Because nobody teaches you. If I had taught a comedy class about how to do comedy, the first thing, how do you get a mic out of the stand? How do you adjust the stand? Move the mic stand behind you. That's like first rule stuff that nobody tells you. All right. So keep your stand and clip simple, straight up, loose holding, solid base. And then some odds and ends here. You will fail a lot at show running. There is no exact science to success every time. Nothing is perfect. You will fail more often than you succeed. So know that going in, that as much as you've learned here today, you might not crush it right out the gate, even if you follow all the steps. You'll always want to, this comedy is about relationships. Show running is the same thing. You've got to build relationships, you've got to maintain relationships, you've got to know how to do that and be personable, likable, trustworthy, and people can trust that you're going to give them what you say you're going to give them every time. Typo, but it's fine. You won't be watching your favorite comics, even if you're booking them. You will be troubleshooting the entire time, from sound and lights to egos and customers and ownership. You'll always be doing something. Hopefully you've got a timer on you so you remember to light your person, and you can tell somebody, hey, I've got to go light the guy. Like, that's what the light is for. It's not for the comics. It's so that you can get back to hosting and not miss being, that's my time. Welcome back to your host, and you're out there talking to the owner. I think, honestly, that's what the light is for, is more for the person who's running the show. All right. Don't step on venues others have a claim to. Don't be that person. Again, it's about relationships. You don't want to, if a show exists and you think you can do it better, good for you. Shut up. Wait for that show to fail. And then let that corpse decompose a little bit before you step in. Don't be like, hey, I saw that you canceled that show. Come in the next day and pitch a better show. Because no one's going to support you. You're an asshole. And the show, just don't do it. Leave places be. So a couple of things you can talk about. Free shows versus tip shows versus cover shows versus tickets. When it comes to making money, you've got to figure out what's best for where you are in the moment. Free shows, what you're going to do there, you're going to negotiate a guarantee from the venue. What can the venue pay me that's just a straight up loss? If that's a venue that can do that, great. Negotiate that. If they're selling liquor, you're probably getting, $1 to $2 per drink profit if they're lucky. So can you get 25 cents a drink on the basic idea of how many drinks they're making? That's probably pretty good. Tip shows. So for that, I'll tell you straight up, coming into Midtown, tip shows suck. Nobody carries cash. Nobody wants to waste their time finding your Venmo. Tip jars in metropolitan areas can do well, but generally they do not do as well as they would do in other places. Tip jar shows in a farm town, in the country, and in mid-sized cities, probably great. They're probably great. Like I said, I had that one tip jar show, most money I ever made. It's farm town. Cover, you can put those anywhere. Cover shows, dive bars love them. Luna's loves them. Ticketed shows, harder to come by because of the risk of, when you know how much money is the maximum makeable, because it's set in stone, ticket price times capacity, there's a lot more risk to the venue if it doesn't sell. So those are harder to get. So you got to know what market you're playing with when you're negotiating that stuff. Also, a free show with a tip jar is the best. Just so you know. Because you can guarantee an amount to somebody that you know you're going to be able to pay them. And you're like, by the way, we're going to do tips. You might make double that. Who's going to say no to that? I know I'm making back my gas, my money, my time, and I might get money on top. Dope. So you can snag that one, do it. Because that also offsets the city problem. If they don't tip, it's fine. You have the base from the free show. All right. And then I wanted to go over why you should never run a hybrid open mic and show. Because you shouldn't. If you know anything about comedy, you know those are two very different things, and there's no way to make them successful. Because if you start your hybrid show with an open mic, all the people who came for your actual show are going to hate comedy by the time it started.
Yeah.
By the time you get to your showcase, they're like, fuck comedy, fuck this venue, fuck this show. Right? So that's not useful. If you're doing your comedy show first, they're going to kill it if you book that show right. But the audience didn't leave because they're there for the open mic, and now their last memory is a guy going on a racist tirade, and now they've forgotten about your headliner you paid good money for. So they're not coming back to your show because their last memory is a bad one. So they're not sticking around for your show if you start the mic first, and they're not remembering the show if you're doing your mic last. Don't do it. Don't ever do it. And if you're
What if it's different this time?
Yeah, what if it's different this time? I mean, I'm sure people throw them because there's been a successful one, you know? There's no guarantees in life. There's probably like 10 or 12 good ones, you know? Where there's a limited mic, where there's only 6 people and they're pre-booked and they don't actually book bad comics. That's probably a way to do it. So a lot like in stand-up comedy where they tell you to live a life worth talking about, the best advice I can give you for running a show is put on a show worth talking about. You cannot pay a smaller price for promotion than word of mouth. It gets out everywhere. It costs you nothing besides making sure that you made them have a good time the first time. And I can't remind you enough, don't post in a Facebook group if that's how you're going to, if you're booking, that's not how you book. Please don't ever post, need 3 comics for Wednesday. I will hit you up like, you need to Venmo me more money because you learned nothing. You need to take my class again. Don't ever do it. It's not how you book a lineup. You don't know the comics, don't book the show. Don't take 99 people. I said it 3 times earlier. You have a question?
So I was going to say something. I realized you can do the open mic up front as long as you like people as soon as they sub.
Oh yeah, okay. So a way for the hybrid open mic is to minimize the damage by giving smaller set times or letting people, playing them off, letting the audience know, hey, this is not real comedy. We're going to get it out of the way.
Yeah, real time quality control.
Yeah, quality control. That's a good point. That would probably be a way to do it because then it lets the audience know that even you don't agree with what's happening.
You let the audience tell you too.
Yes. Yeah. All right. And then, be aware of other shows in your area. Don't step on toes. Goes back to being in relationships. All right. Any questions? What about in the chat where nobody is anymore? Anybody got any questions, concerns, anything like that we want to talk about in here? I'm just pulling it up so that it's there in case.
As far as promotion, when you've done it, I know you said you prefer to have somebody outsource it or whatever, but when you've done it, what's the most effective form of promotion?
Okay, so if you're doing digital marketing, it's kind of a bummer for a person like me who's an old fuddy-duddy, but I find that the most hits and reactions I get is posting about it in your stories on Instagram. I don't know why. An Instagram post, they like to have your selfies. So if it's not a selfie, it's not getting promoted. Facebook, they prefer selfies. And they've actually got bots that search for promotion. And if you're not paying for it on Facebook, they're not showing it to people. Stories is the best way to go on a digital platform. In Sacramento, we're very lucky. You can get the Sac News and Review. You can post about it in their website and the classifieds about your shows. You've got Eventbrite. You've got Sac 365. There's tons of websites that will let you post about your show for free, and you can pay to promote those through those channels. Those are things that cost you nothing and have pretty good results back. Obviously, the quicker you do them in advance, the better, especially on the Sac News and Review one, I think is probably the best way to get it early. But those are things that people search. What is there to do tonight? And they'll go to those websites because they trust and tell them what's going on in this. If you're not on there, you're doing yourself a disservice. Saying that, I don't use them. But that's just because I'm a cocky asshole who's like, we're good. But when you're starting out, I did use them when I was starting out. Thank you for bringing it up. Absolutely use those. They're free. There's a paid version of it that you can use as well. Yes?
Have you seen anybody have success with putting comics in between sets in a music environment? Just, that there's a live mic there and some downtime.
So you're talking about like a mixed show where it's music and comedy?
Yeah. Does that work?
I've seen it work, but more often I've seen it fail.
We've done it here, but I discourage it because between musicians, people want to talk to the musician and so forth.
What's going on?
Get drinks and so forth. So I discourage it.
If you're down to be a voice just to fill the space as a comedian, do it. I've done them. I've had great reactions, and I've had a lot more really lackluster reactions. I've had people threaten to fight me during those sets. So I don't think they're great, but I think that they can be done. It's a lot easier to do that than a hybrid open mic showcase. I'll say that. It's a lot, your chances of success are much higher that way. I got a question in the room. What's the general pay scale for booking a local feature and headliner or a regional headliner? All right, so a local feature and headliner, again, it depends on how much you're paying, how much time you're asking them to do, how well you know them. My headliners is at least $80. Features at least $40. Preferably get in the triple digits for that headliner and get up to 75 for that feature. That's if you're going to be. That's what you should be targeting as far as how much money you bring in. You want to get paid at least $200 to do the show, and then give most of that to the headliner and the feature.
I made a question related.
Yes.
Budget, like you said, you set up a budget. One of the first things you do is set up a budget for your show.
Yeah. How
can you do that if you don't know what you're getting?
Right.
Or is that if you're taking something to a venue and saying, hey, I want $500 to do this show? Yeah, so my thing is you should always have a base number that you've agreed on. This is the minimum you're going to be paid. Like, you should know that. So it gives everybody an incentive. Like, I have a show, the one that's not doing particularly well, I was like, hey, I'll do it for this amount of money, but what I'll do is we'll do a tip jar show. And if I make that money in tips, you owe me nothing. If I don't make it, you owe me the difference. So that way I've secured that I can pay my comics and not lose money. Right. So oftentimes I think that doing it that way, you can also agree on percentages of door or food and whatever that is. You should be able to look at data that they have of what their normal day is. Just assume you're going to do normal. So you can guess how much you're going to make that day. And then you have to know that sometimes when you do it that way, we don't have a guarantee. Just accept that sometimes you're going to lose money. But you got to spend money to make money. But sometimes you just spend money. And it never ends. Are you guarantee as the booker, or
what's that?
Are you guaranteeing the other comics?
Yes.
Or
am I guaranteeing the comics money? Yes. I always guarantee the comics money, except for one show where I pay them based on an audience vote. And that way, the incentive's on them to get their friends out, have a good set. It puts a lot of incentive there. It's like, you can make, $100, or you can make $3. And that's the fun of the show. As part of the show is it's a competition, so that's different. But every other show, I have a base pay for my comics, and it's never less than $25. Just because gas isn't cheap. Most shows, they barely cover gas and tolls, but you got to make sure you're covering that and paying for their talent and their time.
And related, you're talking, I forgot my question.
Come back to it. Any other questions? Yes.
Let's get back to the business side, but at what point do you feel like you need a business license to proceed with this? And also coming out of the COVID thing, is there insurance stipulations that you need to look at and get covered for liability?
So as far as that goes, if you're running, I don't do shows of that type. All of my stuff is built within a venue that has a license to do live shows. But if you're starting up pop-up shows or renting out venues where you're now responsible, yeah, those costs you need to factor in. And on those ones where you're renting out a venue and you're responsible for that, you need to ticket accordingly. You need to put a bunch into promotion. I had somebody approach me about doing it, and I was like, I don't feel like losing $7,000 for no reason. So, no. Like it's like, yeah, I can do that, but I'm not a marketer. I'm not a guy who's an insurance guy and like knows the taxation and like paying them. We've got to hire people to make food, make sure they have licenses and do all that background stuff. That's not me. That's for a company to do as far as I'm concerned. You can do it as an individual. If you have the skill set, go for it. If you have the income where you can support that loss, if it doesn't go well, do it. Go for it. This could be as much or as little as you want it to be. It could be a thing where you're like, hey, I got free drinks tonight and also had a fun show with my friends. That's totally a reason to run a show. That's a valid reason to do a show. A lot of my shows, I don't really take home much of a paycheck. I don't care. I want to have a good show. I want my friends who own businesses to do well, and that's good enough for me. And there's other shows where I'm like, I'm making my money. Like I'm not, like this is business. So it's really what risks you're willing to take and how much work you're willing to put into it.
So my next question, follow-up was, do you expect the other comics that you're booking to promote the show as well, or is it all on you?
Okay. Question was, do you expect the performers on your shows to promote as well as yourself, or is it all on you? I'm a democratic guy. It's on everybody. Everybody gets what you give. I don't know if that's democratic, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. But to me, every show is a bringer show if you think about it. People are coming to see comedy. You do comedy. They're coming to see you. You're a bringer. You got to tell friends. You got to tell enemies. You got to tell coworkers you're doing a show. How often you do that and how you do that, to me, that's your choice. If you don't want to do that day, I don't care. But a lot of people do. There's bookers out there that will bother you. Hey, I haven't seen you posting on social media. And you can be that person because it is important that the people who are doing your show are excited about doing your show. And one way to show you're excited is that you're promoting it because you want people to know you're doing this cool show. If they're not promoting it, maybe it's them. Check their feed. Maybe they're not really big promotion people. But if they're promoting other shows and not yours, check yourself. What is your reputation right now that somebody doesn't want to say they're on your show? Are you putting on 12 comics? And they're like, I don't want to invite my friends to see this smorgasbord of mediocrity, A lot of established comics aren't going to post about that show because they can't trust the people that come will want to come to another one. All right. Oh, any more questions in here? And Corey, just on that first question about pay scale, did you get that? And any further follow-up on that? All right, so we got a question. Somebody here has experienced a thing, and I'm sorry. How do you arrange payment, being fair, but avoid getting stiffed by a sketchy venue? Well, first of all, know the signs of a sketchy venue. That's the first thing. Know when you walk in that maybe you're not going to get paid the way you thought you were. And don't do it. I showed you venues. Look at how they treat their staff. Look at how their income is. If it looks too good to be true, if somebody's saying they're going to give you $500 for a show and there's 3 people in the bar, something's up. Don't do it. Although I've seen that, and I got my money. I didn't run the show, I was just on it. I got my money for a show with 2 people, and I'm fairly certain it was just a money laundering front. That's all that place was. I'm like, great, they got to do whatever they're doing illegally, and I got paid to do a mediocre set in front of nobody. Sounds good. Everybody wins. But yeah, the best way to avoid getting stiffed is agree in advance on the pay, how it's being paid. I like going cash. They like going cash. It's not a paper trail. They decide they want to go, don't need to know about the thing with the finances. There's a lot of comics. I'm recording. You guys, why are you doing this to me, person, a complete stranger? Cash is king. Get it in the moment. Get it during your headliner. That's where I get my money. I go during the last set. That way I have it ready for them. They walk off stage. Thank you for your time. Boom, wad of cash. They're gone. So everybody had a good time there.
So you just said get your pay from the venue owner during the headliner set.
Yes. Get it early if you can, but honestly, the headliner's doing the longest set. Do you have more time to track somebody down, have them get their money straight, and then And then you can tell also that they're not paying you. You can tell your people, hey, sorry, I'm going to have to work on this, but I'll get you. I just don't have the money on me right now. Give me a couple of days to work on it. And then you're being upfront with your comics. And then they know the problem isn't you, it's the venue.
Something you said earlier makes sense too. You should probably be doing, if you're just doing shows, do shows that you know you have money
to pay for.
To cover for if shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
Until you establish good relationships.
Yeah, I mean, everything I said here is for a reason, because I've been burned on payment as well, and it's just like you got to learn to pick up on the signs that you're not going to get what you asked for. I had my first show I ever put together. My first show, I'm from Sacramento, doing comedy in Sacramento, so obviously first place to do a live show is Ukiah. That's where I was like, yeah, that's where I'll throw my first show I ever booked. It's me and Ungai Obilum. Like, that's a killer set. You know, we're in Humboldt County. That's a weed county. We're at a brewery. I'm a beer guy. Ungai's a beer guy. This is great. We're getting weed and beer. We're going to do a comedy show. It's going to be fun. And they keep kind of messing with the date. They're like, hey, we had a date. I'm like, cool. They're like, oh, do you want if we do 1 week later? And we're like, 1 week later is no big deal. Let's do 1 week later. And what we didn't know is that first date would have been great. The second date, we were competing with the following events. A Sierra Nevada Beer Festival, 15 miles away, and a reggae festival 30 miles the other direction. So, bye-bye drinkers, bye-bye weed folk, hello 5 audience members. Hello my family who drove 3 hours to see the show. So, the bar's like, hey, I know we gave you a guarantee. Obviously, we're going to struggle to give you that money today. And I'm like, so I talked to a guy. I'm like, hey, you know, this is a money thing. And like, I don't want to feel like we're going to stiff you. You can see that like we took in like 8 tickets. You know, like it's nothing near. That's $80 for a $10 ticket. Like, but we feel bad. It was a good show. We didn't really promote it, and we didn't think about these events being in the area. So we'll just give you every penny we made since 4:00 today when we arrived. So they didn't make any money that day, but they paid us because they enjoyed the show. Putting on a good show that's well run and well performed, you're going to get your money because they understand the value that you've given them. So we may not have met our guarantee of $500. I think we got like $390 on a show with 8 people. So, and then, you know, there's a lot of extra things that come after the show for that. So, yeah. So, Tom, I'm sorry about the time that happened to you. I'm very sorry. Or a stranger on the internet is what I mean. All right. All right, and then next question for tip jar shows. Are you passing the tip jar around, or do you have it in a fixed location that you tell people about? That's a comfort level thing. I like the walk around because it puts the pressure on people. It'll be like a social engagement thing. They see that their friend gave money, so now there's a little pressure for them to give money. I haven't done this, but a QR code on your tip jar so people can scan that and pay digitally is a great idea. That you can probably leave freestanding. And also, who you send the tip jar is important. For me, I send the tip jar out before my headliner goes up, and I put out the person who had the best set so far. Because people like that person, and they just saw them. And also, you don't know what your headliner's going to do, because headliners tend to like kind of get into crowd work, and that might not go so well. So you want to get that money before they know the worst part. Because everybody else is going to do their set. They're going to do their set, and it's going to be good or bad. The headliners, like, they're going to do their set, then they're going to play around a little bit. So get your money before that happens, and use your best person. That's how to maximize your income. Otherwise, tell people tip jars in the back. Thank you so much. Any little bit helps. That's fine. You're going to get tips either way. There's ways to maximize it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Treasure, you said.
What's that?
That's all treasure. You just said that.
Yeah, I'm spinning gold here, guys. There's a reason I did this class. Hecklers. How to handle hecklers. Honestly, we're all professional comedians. I don't care if you've only been paid once. I don't care if it was a free drink. We're all professionals. We should all know how to handle a heckler. In worst case to worst, have a heavy metal brick at the bottom of your mic stand. Like, I'll go talk to people that are disruptive. I'll check with management that it's okay to do that. Or if they have somebody they prefer to do that, you tell them. Make sure that you're communicating with your venue about, like I said, when you're booking this room, you're going to tell them the positives and negatives. And one of those things is there might be unruly customers, and how do we handle that? One time I was running an open mic where I don't have that discussion because I assume there's unruly people. Because we're doing an open mic at a shitty bar that's failing, right? This venue, there was a person there. I wasn't hosting. I had some family stuff. Turns out, this one guy decided to heckle every comedian, started using racial slurs, and then attempted to punch a comedian, and the bar took his side.
What?
Yeah. Because he's a friend of the owner. You gotta let him know. I'm gonna have to tell your friend to fuck off. Is that okay? I'm gonna tell your best customer to shut up. Is that okay? You need to know that. So I guess that could have been in the class earlier, but again, that's the thing. That's why I have the question. So that's a great piece of advice. Make sure that you're telling them everything. Like, your best customers might hate this. And in fact, be confronted. So you got to know that might happen. And you got to be okay with us handling this and how it has to be handled.
I just had that problem happen during poetry open mic.
Oh, yeah.
Where it would actually turn into fisticuffs. So it was, you've never had it with comedy here, but poetry, fine.
Well, some people like to get in touch with their feelings and some people don't, Art. I guess poetry's tough because you can say things in slanted language that people like take their own meaning from, I guess. Also, as a recommendation just from me to you, if your personal thing, if you're a political comic who's more on the liberal side, never do a show in El Dorado Hills. If you want to not get into a fight at a comedy show, do not do liberal political humor in El Dorado Hills. I'm 0 for 3 every time it's a fight. I just, so that's, then don't antagonize them as you continue the thing. But that's me. If you can avoid booking a show in El Dorado Hills and Northern Folsom, do it. Don't do those shows. I think that's it. If you can get near Sutter Street, downtown outlets area, go for it. The upscale, like Whole Foods Mall area and up from there, leave it the fuck alone. Okay. I think, anything else? You guys get everything? Any additional questions coming in on the chat? You're pretty good on retaining people. Thank you guys so much. And Dylan, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was telling me that you were trying to get admitted for so long. I thought it was just like it was just telling me you were there. And I'm very sorry trying to run this show. I'm a terrible host at this stuff. That's I think it.
Thanks, man.
Feel free to message me with any questions you guys have or anything like that.
What's up with David's pumpkins?
Any questions? The David Pumpkin sketch from Saturday Night Live. Right.
Okay, doors unlocked.
All right.
All right.
So I will be putting this out. Since I recorded it, I'll be putting it on YouTube so you can quickly reference it. It'll be a private video. I'll send you guys all the link. If you want the presentation, let me know as well. I'm happy to forward that on to you as well. Don't share it with people, I guess, because whatever, I want to control my property. But yeah, thank you guys to all the online people. I love you very much. Let me know if you need copies. I'm happy to forward them. It was long.